Yeah, there we go. Ah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming back and joining me after the 7 hour, 56 minute, and 0.01 second stream I did last night. Which I would not do that to you, Pete. You would abandon me long before then. Uh, how you doing, Pete?
I'm doing well, Larry. Thanks again for having me on, and this is I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be fun.
Glad to hear it because you're a very interesting person to talk to. It's kind of funny to because it's not in a where you're forcing yourself to be funnier than it's just natural to you. It's just like, hey, humorous. It's the I find some Midwesterners can be that way, especially when it's really cold. Because if you're not humorous and kind of well, they're a little bit more hospitable. They're a little bit more hospitable than those from New England states. But
Well, I mean, let's face it. Up here in Boston, I mean, we're known for like just being like obnoxious sports fans and racists. So I don't know. You know, there's not really not much to go on. So I think you know, I would say that both are wrong or maybe right. I don't know. We'll see.
well, I've never been that far up north. I've been to Wisconsin. That's as furthest north I've ever been. Uh, I've never the furthest north, and as far as eastern seaboard goes, is around
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is that ain't that north. I mean, I've never been to New York. I've not been to Connecticut, anything like that. And I was looking at it, it's like you have to either go out in the middle of nowhere in the country, or you have to go through the busiest parts of America. You
Yeah.
know, the GWB, and then through the Bronx, and then you have to go through the Bronx. You got to go through New Haven and take 95, which is always under construction apparently.
Yes. Yeah.
It, it's,
I've been. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a well-traveled person, but I've been around. I mean, I've been on both coasts. I've never been to New York City. I've been through New York City, but that's just enough for me to not want to stick around for any length of time. It's just, it sucks. It's just, it smells like shit. It just, I don't know. I've never been through there long enough for me to want to say like, hey, let's stick around. Let's see what this is all about. It's just like the sooner I can get the hell out of here, the better. I've been to Los Angeles and San Francisco, and you know, I wouldn't say that either is particularly great. I would say San Francisco is an interesting place. It's not. You read a lot about it, and it's been a while since I was out there. I was out there probably about four years ago, and yeah, I mean, I had some. We ran into some interesting characters while out there, but I mean, it was overall the city is really cool. It's an old city. It's built on a hill, so it's just like the streets are very like you could stand at the top of the street and just look out for miles. It just goes down. If you have ever seen Dirty Harry or
I've seen
watched
Bullet. I've seen Dirty Harry. I've seen all the Dirty Harry movies.
yes, okay, yeah.
Even Deadpool. Even the Deadpool.
Oh, even the Deadpool with Jim
Welcome to the
Carrey.
jungle.
We got
Oh,
fun and games. Oh God, Jim Carrey just looking like a complete ass. I don't know.
the Motel Hell, and the
Motel Hell.
oh my
Yeah,
God, it's
and
just
Liam Neeson too. Just looks
pre Darkman Liam Neeson. People forget Darkman launched his career. Really,
yeah.
he was an episode of Miami Vice. He was in
He was in Crawl. Remember
he was in
Crawl?
Kroll. He was also in Excalibur, the
Yes.
John Borman, which somebody had told like there was a guy saying, oh, it just recently came out in Blu-ray, so I picked it up. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. It'd probably be good. We got Patrick Stewart in it, and Helen Mirren and a couple other people. I was like, okay, cool, I'll check it out. It's really shiny and bright. Almost reminds me of like one of those like it's like a '70s movie, but it came out like in 1981 or whatever.
Yeah.
And that brutality of it, the gore and the violence and everything was appropriate because this is a horrific time to be alive. I mean, you get cut down by a sword, you ain't getting back up from that. I mean, it doesn't work that way. It ain't like you're going to the hospital.
No,
Like,
that's it for you. You like that's no, but you're exactly right. they didn't shy away from any of that, and they kind of treated it as if, like the medieval period. Even though it's like, yeah, Excalibur, it's fantasy, but it's like they treated it in such a way that it's like, yeah, like you said, it's a very brutal time period. And yeah, that's it's been a long time since I watched that. Another that kind of reminds me, I've been meaning to watch Dragon Slayer.
Oh yeah,
uh, I haven't got around to it. I don't know how it's going to hold up from my memories as a kid, but I just recently rewatched Crawl, and
that's a good movie, man. That's good.
I love that goddamn movie.
What you know? What's so messed up? That thing they busted her ass, and then because they overdubbed the actress,
Yes, yeah,
and it's like, oh, like, Americans wouldn't understand the like a British act, like they wouldn't like sympathize with somebody with a different accent. Like what?
right,
Like there's like producers, they ruin everything. But
sure,
that the detail and the hard work they put into that movie, and it's like it bombed. It bombed at the theaters. It didn't.
yeah, it did.
That's a damn shame. That's like, oh my god. And that's like a movie like that today. That all that hard work, and of course it's always CG today, but that work that went into it, it's a work of art. It's
It
a
it,
damn
re- it really is. It's a cool, like the spider web scene and stuff like
oh
that. It was
god,
like,
yeah.
can you imagine what they would have done with like CGI? I know we talked about this last week with Alien and the how the CGI just fucks everything up.
Yeah.
But I think that, I mean, if they were to remake that now, which they won't, it's not that big of a movie that they would even consider remaking. But if they were to even try it, could you just imagine how lousy that would look with like the spider scene with CGI, or the horses like with the flames and stuff like that, would, or even the Cyclops there? I mean, it's kind of
Yeah, he would be CG. It'd just be like like, hey, look at this tennis ball, folks. While we talk to the tennis ball, because we'll put the Cyclops in later. It's like, but you're so right, because I was thinking of people forget that with Alien 3, when I'm Alien 3, I've watched that movie a bunch of times. Well, what they call the assembly cut, which is like
Mhm.
kind of like the director's closest thing to the director's cut, because they took out some scenes that apparently made people violently ill because of how gory and gruesome they were, like the brutal dissection of Newt,
Mm.
like, which is like, there's people, because David Fincher is a real fucked up individual.
Sure
uh,
is.
but they're watching the movie, and the alien in that, when it wasn't the dude in the suit for like the close-up shots, was like wire puppet. It was like about 12 inches long, and very detailed, but like this, they did it on like a blue screen, and they kind of matched it up. They were doing the puppeteering, but looking at a monitor to see where the thing would be, and like to impose it onto the screen. Now the compositing, there's some special effects, 'cause they were rushing it to get it done. That they were trying to meet a release date, not necessarily make the best movie possible. And I was thinking, like, they did that. I hate it. I hate all of it. Disney can eat ass, and not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
Not, 280-pound hairy, sweaty trucker ass. There you go. Um, House and Mouse and you the hairball from that. But with but with like when they did that
that
BB-8.
visual.
Oh
That
god,
visual.
it's kind of making me gag a little bit.
I'll one up you, Amy Schumer. How's that?
Oh,
Yeah, that'll.
stink on that. It's like violently queefing in your face. I mean,
Thanks for tuning in, folks. We really appreciate it. I
oh
can just
man,
picture half the people just logging out now.
like a perfect time to jump in. Like hairy trucker ass, and then violent queefs in your face, assault queefing. But with
Ban assault queefing. No more. We are all been assault
we're
queefing.
it's a three round queef magazine.
We need
orifice.
to. We need to. We need to ban the capacity limits of Queef magazine.
we should remove the underbarrel and the grip.
Well,
And then-
single shot queef machine, that's fine. I mean, that's what the founding fathers thought about when they put that in the.
Martha Washington was the first one to have the assault.
The assault queef.
It's so creepy. But
Yeah, Betsy Ross out there just tearing. Okay, all right. Let's
I
getting
know,
off
but
target.
she wasn't sewing flags. She was sewing muzzles for for, uh, like a breach. She's whatever. It's whatever. But
Okay.
when they did that BB-8, because they had like two guys like pushing them around, and they took like the blue green screen, like I think it
Yeah.
was green screen attached to it, and they took it out after the fact. And I was like, imagine if somebody would do like a say two one third, two-thirds scale size xenomorph
Mm.
and do that same kind of thing, like that, like a live action puppeteering, but then, or maybe even full size, and have it moved around, but all like have the rods and stuff attached to it, and guys in like kind of the blue man suit kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then do that and then take it out in post, so the actor actually has something to act against, and then you
Mm-hmm.
just like take out the rods and you take it like maybe put like the the extra mouth, the puncture mouth that's got going on, put that in there. That's fine. But nobody like to say, oh, I should do all CG, and so it looks just like crap. It has no weight to it. It has no emotion. Like I was looking through uh, there were some gifs for John Carpenter's The Thing,
Mm-hmm.
and like yes, I know all of that is fake. That's not real, but it's real to me, and it looks real, and it's creepy, and like that the hairy neck on the when it's like attached to the ceiling, and it's like got the fangs and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
it's disturbing looking. It's
It,
nightmare
it
inducing.
it really is, and for the time, I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I remember seeing anything of the thing, I was probably, geez, I was probably like 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a Halloween party. I was dressed as Optimus Prime, and there were a bunch of kids. It was like one of those cheap, like,
Rubies.
yeah, like Ben Carson or whatever. Those like it was just basically like a mask with a rubber band around the back, and then a sheet of plastic that said Transformers on it, and like
Oh my
Optimus Prime. One of those, yeah. Oh
god.
yeah. So it was one of those costumes, and I remember like walking in the. There was a bunch of teenagers. It was a friend of my mother's, and like they had all older kids, and it was like they were all huddled around watching John Carpenter's The Thing. And I just remember thinking at a certain point, like, there's just people walking around talking. They're like, no, 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 you can't be in here. You can't be in here. And I didn't see anything disturbing. Like, when like he goes to use the defibrillator and his arms go through the chest cavity.
Oh
And
yeah,
like, nothing like that. It was just a bunch of people walking around, but they were like kicking me out. No, you can't be in here. You can't be in here. And then the reason why I remember this part, it was not only just John Carpenter's The Thing, but they had like a haunted house set up in the attic, right? So there's like you go upstairs in the whole attic area, and it was like all spooky music and lights and people coming out of the corners, and all night long you'd hear like teenage girls screaming and running downstairs.
oh
And it was just
Jesus.
constantly like and running downstairs. And I remember I was 6. I was like, I'm not scared. I'm gonna go upstairs. I'm gonna go up. I'm not scared. And I walked up to the top of the stairs, and this guy comes out of the corner like dressed like Dracula, and I turned my ass right around and walked downstairs. It was like, yeah, nothing to see here. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I was terrified. I was like, but I didn't make a sound. I was just like, all right, what's this about? Oh, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Was it like Egon? I'm terrified beyond the ability for rational thought or something like that. It's like
Yeah.
just intense terror. It's like if you were to see, like some Cthulhu like creature, you just be like, all right, silently, not even say all right. You're just like, I accept my fate.
Right, exactly. Well, the jig's up. But yeah, I remember that walking up, like telling all the teenage girls, like, "Oh, what are you screaming about? That's nothing." And I walk upstairs, just like, "Nope, I'm turning right back around." And I like puffed my chest out in my Optimus Prime costume, saying, that wasn't scary. That was nothing." Meanwhile, I didn't sleep for like a week and a half. I was terrified of that Dracula coming out of the corner of the attic. But
It was like that stuff like that. I mean, because being down south, they still look down upon like Halloween is going to be like worshiping the devil and all
oh
that
yeah,
kind of mess. So they'd have these like hay rides or whatever. Or the church would get together, like people together and do that whole You're like, oh, go get in the back of a wagon, pull behind a tractor, so you're sucking in diesel fumes, and people
I
coming
can
out of the
imagine.
darkness with like putting flashlights under them, like go boo and stuff like that. Which is
Yeah.
and the it was just the dumbest thing. Like the Halloween, we would go to the next town over, like, which is bigger, and actually just do some trick or treating and everything like that. But yeah, it's like, I mean, it's the difference. It's like they'd have they're kind of lazy down here because it's still sometimes in October. It's still kind of muggy and humid, so nobody really wants to do the whole. There's people that do the costume thing, but it seemed like not too many people were like all into Halloween. They wanted the candy, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But you'd see the teenagers walking around, in a
Oh
crap
yeah.
mask,
Oh
which like
yeah.
worry about getting robbed. It's like Omar from The Wire. You have to worry about somebody just like snatching your instead of drugs, it's candy. It's like,
It's like, only take one, kids. Only take one. He's like, give me that bag. You just grab it like right out of your hand.
oh
Okay,
my
well, I
god,
guess we're done trick or treating. Let's turn out the lights. And yeah, there's up north where it's a little bit colder, and people aren't as maybe overly religious up here. Halloween's kind of a big deal, like weather permitting. I mean, actually, if it rains, like I remember going out trick or treating out in the rain. I mean, it's free candy. I mean, why the fuck not? Like if I'd go out in the snow if it was free candy if you're a kid. But I remember we had an exchange student that was staying across the street from us, and he'd never even heard of Halloween. He was like, "What is it?" And I'm like, "Whoa, it's awesome. You just walk around door to door and you say trick or treat, and people give you candy." He's like, "No, no, really. What is it?" I'm like, "That's it. That's essentially it. It's like a holiday, but this is like the essential. You just dress up in a costume." And so we were all like kind of teenagers. We were still in high school, but like we went out trick or treating, and I'd never forget the faces of like the doors opening up and they see this like grown kid who's like, yeah, trick or treat. And they're like, all right, he's an exchange student. We're just showing him. Like, oh, okay, all right. Here's a half a Snickers bar. There, get off my lawn. Like little kids coming up. But yeah, that was the last time I went trick or treating. I think it was a junior in high school. But it was only to take this kid out trick or treating that had never done it before. But
where was he
yeah,
from?
but Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah.
This is Halloween's.
Trick or treat. Smell
Or
my
treat.
feet. Give me something. Okay, all right. Like, get out of here, Sven. We got little kids coming up behind you. Who's that little kid shivering in the Optimus Prime mask? He looks like he'd seen a ghost. But
I saw
but
the
yeah,
I saw the ghost of Megatron.
exactly. Oh, you know what? I've only I don't know how you feel about the Michael Bay Transformers movies.
uh,
I Go
they're a
ahead.
waste. They're absolute
Yes.
waste. And
Thank
I
you.
I watched the first one, and I remember it was at the comic store. Uh, the day it released, it was like a Friday. I was picking up my books, and a guy came in, or I don't know, Wednesday. I think the movie came out on a Wednesday. He did like did the expanded, where it come out on Wednesday, and then like when it premiered the
Right.
movie on a Wednesday, so you get that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And he come in and he's like, I just left for that Transformers. Fuck that movie. And he started jumping up at that skinny, the kind of, the basement dweller guy with the
Yeah.
patchy beard, the scraggy hair, glasses, everything skinny. Like, probably smelled of bong water and everything like that. And it was like hopping mad. He was literally jumping in the air, hopping with anger. And he's like, fuck that movie. He's pulling it's basically, it ruined my childhood,
Yeah.
And he didn't even finish it. He's like, he walked out.
Oh, he had more conviction than I did. I stayed through the whole fucking thing. It was like it was. I remember how long it was.
It was too long. Like it was
Oh
like
my!
2.5 hours or something.
I don't know what it is nowadays, but they can't make a movie that's under 2 hours. Like
Like
it's just like, go
the
ahead.
Marvel movies should be like an
Oh,
hour and a half. They should be like John
easy.
Carpenter length. Like there's no excuse for a movie where just two guys basically hit each other and
Yeah.
then blue space laser. It should not only be like an hour and a half long. It
If
shouldn't be
you
230 million, 200, 300 million. It shouldn't be that much as well.
right.
But
But I mean, I understand if you're doing like an Avengers where it's a big crossover movie and you're getting all these assholes in one movie, and it's like, okay, I get it if you want to pad it out and maybe give everybody their shine and give a bigger story. Like, if all of them are under 2 hours, between an hour and a half and 2 hours long, perfect time, like hour 45, and then do like the big event movie, have that be like two hours and 15 minutes. I could get that, but they're all 2 hours and 15 minutes. They're all self-indulgent, just ugh fest. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen Black Panther. I've been meaning to, because just people say that they've had, I don't go by a lot of the reviews, because I think, number one, I like to make up my own mind. There's sometimes it's, oh, that movie's a piece of shit, and then I go and watch it. I'm like, wow, I love that movie. What are they talking about? And
Yeah, I
then
know the feeling.
sometimes, yeah, and then sometimes it's the opposite. Like, this movie's the greatest achievement in film, and you watch it and like, Jesus Christ, I'd rather watch Highlander 2 than this. Like, wow, what a
That's bad, man. That's,
well, yeah.
It's nice. Like, oh god.
But I mean, that's kind of how I feel about the Transformers movies. I mean, I saw the first one in the theater, and I was like, wow, what a colossal pile of shit that was. And then I saw the second one. I remember hearing everybody saying how bad the second movie was. And I guess it was like during the writers' strike, and they just kind of shit this movie together like really, really quick. But I mean, I still don't give it. I mean, I use that as an excuse. Like, wow, that was really bad. I just saw that on cable one day. I'm like, I'm never coming back. That's it. I don't care. I don't care what they do from here on out. Like, they could literally make them look exactly like the '80s cartoon, just in CGI, like, which they don't do, which drives me nuts. Like, what the fuck is Megatron? All the Decepticons look just like abject shapes, and when they transformed into something that was like 4 inches from your face, from the screen rather, and it was just like you couldn't. There was no telling how do you get like a Corvette out of what he turned into? It's like, oh, this is awful. I didn't like him at all. I mean, maybe I'm just being a nitpicky.
No, you're not, because they all look like. It doesn't matter if they're Autobots or Decepticons. All the Transformers look like somebody went to a tool and die shop, took a shitty wireframe figure, put a bunch of hot glue, and then threw a bunch of metal shavings.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And hit with some spray paint, and that's it. And everything looks. When I think of Transformers, I think of the '80s, and I didn't watch the cartoon religiously. I watched a little bit. I watched Beast Wars, because it was like don't on.
God help you.
Yeah, God help me. Yeah, but it's like,
yeah,
but the '86 Transformers movie is like one of the great movies of the '80s. It's one of those hey, how do we don't want it to be PG. So they want it to be G, because G-rated films apparently back in the day they wouldn't have them in as many theaters. Like, they wouldn't have as many showings, like one showing and everything like that. So they said we needed to like bump up the like the ratings. So like, let's throw a few shits in there and like open up.
Shit,
damn
what
it.
are we gonna do now? And I'm like, whoa,
exactly. It's like, all right, we did. Like, did you see that the last Transformers movie they made the Earth as Unicron? They revealed that. Yep. They revealed that the Earth is Unicron, and so that it's that right there. I was like, oh no! And then they got Anthony Hopkins in this. Anthony Hopkins has no shame. He's about as bad as he's about as bad as like Robert De Niro and the rest of them. And yeah, got my lips in my wig.
Let's fucking I'm Unicron.
Oh my God, Al Pacino is Unicron. No. Oh my God.
Decepticons, Autobots, roll out.
Look at the inner John, but don't touch. Touch, but don't taste. Like, oh my God, it's
I'm so a Phenoman.
Oh my God, because it's like,
he would probably do it too. Let's not just
somebody.
Yeah, let's not give anybody any ideas, because it might happen. If they make any more of those shit movies, which I hear that they're not going to make anymore. But come on, those things make $1 billion. That's they'll make.
Thank China for that. We can thank China because they dumb them down so much, and they throw all that bullshit American propaganda. Which I love America. I'm not gonna be like I'm a jingoist, and sometimes like I love Iron Eagle. Yeah, this whole like
me too.
The government can't do shit. Let's go kick some ass.
Yeah,
Lou Gossett Jr. can't go wrong.
Exactly.
Lou Gossett Jr. in it. There you go. Get him while he's still alive. Be like,
come on, Chappie.
Chappie shows up. He's like, Chappie beats Starscream.
Hey, where's Jason Gedrick when you need him? Let's bring them all back.
I remember I was watching Supernatural. This is like season 4 or 5 of
Oh
Supernatural.
yeah, yeah.
He showed up in the same episode with Linda
Linda
Blair.
Blair, I remember that. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what a what,
Never
what
say
bizarre.
die. I an eagle. Oh my god! It was like
Linda
it
Blair's
was
head
so weird.
spinning around. Oh
It's like
Christ.
Linda Blair had the worst take. Like it's like, hey, you're in one of the biggest movies of all time as far as like cultural zeitgeist. What
Mm.
do? You get hooked on drugs and then date Rick James. Like that's gonna work out well for you. I think when he burned her with cigarettes or something,
I
beat her,
think so. Yeah, yeah.
and it's like she was so like had that Stockholm syndrome where it's like, oh, he's not that bad. It's like, but after the devil's made you stab yourself in the cooch with a crucifix, I
Right.
guess cigarette burns aren't that bad.
I guess Rick James wasn't that bad of a number two option there.
Well, hey, it was like it's option one: Exorcist II, the heretic, or Rick James. You
Oh
take the least offensive one. Yeah.
Oh,
I am Pizzuzz. Oh god, that was so
yeah.
bad, so bad. But it's like that's the thing about these. Like I like Transformers as a concept. This idea is like they took hey, we got these robots to turn into cars. Okay, that's cool, or trucks, or what have you.
Right.
And then like there's so much potential there, and they got to go and make it really dumb. The idea of there's a war between two different types of robots, and then they have to. Well, they've been here the entire time. Okay, yeah, they kind of set that up in the cartoon where they crash land, prehistoric Earth, and they get trapped, and the Mount St. Helens blows up or equivalent thereof,
Mm.
and they get released, and they got to fight for Energon. Hey, that's fine, that's great, works out fine. But then they got to go and shit the bed by doing this new one. Oh, so they can travel through space individually, and the stuff's all been here the entire time, and then they retcon. It's just dumb story. It's like they have to when there's simple and there's dumb,
Yeah.
and Bayformers are dumb. It's not even.
It,
It's not.
it's crazy because I mean it's a toy, for Christ's sake. Okay, it's not. When you think of the concept of Transformers, it's a car that turns into a robot. It's for kids. Okay, let's just be honest here. That's why it was popular in the '80s with kids, because it was a car or a jet or a boat that turned into a robot, and so they had to make a cartoon or something viable to come up with, like, well, what do we do with these? Okay, so the robots fight each other. Let's go, blah blah blah. But then, like, you flash forward 20 years, and then they make it in this movie, and they try to do something quasi serious with it, or not. Like it was. I have no idea what the fuck they were thinking when they made that movie, and the way they made it. I mean, if they should have just made like a CGI version of the '80s cartoon and maybe updated it a little bit.
Yeah.
But what they just did was just nonsensical, and it was just. And then the same thing to be said about like G.I. Joe, like and you don't see any G.I. Joe stuff nowadays. I don't. It's not even a franchise. It's not anything anymore. I mean, for as big as it was in the '80s. I mean, they had those two movies that came out a couple of years ago, but that's it. They didn't.
The second one was pretty good. The second one was actually, I'd say, good. I remember seeing it.
Well, you know why I probably didn't check it out.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you, because it's like I watched it and like I was thinking like, okay, it's probably gonna be like a laugh at it kind of movie. It was actually really good. It was like kind of a solid. It reminded me a little bit of Commando. It was like a less a less racy version of Commando in many ways.
My friend is dead tired.
Yeah, it was like,
please do not disturb my friend. He's dead tired. Oh God.
And cutting guys' arms off with saw blades. The kid is scalping people.
I love that movie.
Circular saw blades. Yeah, I was like, that's one of those things. Like I liked it. I liked it, but the first one was garbage. I mean, it's just like what they did that Battleship.
Terrible. Yeah.
Oh God, and they did that Battleship movie as well.
I never watched it, but I can. I mean, I heard the premise of that. I'm like, okay, there you go. Now we're fighting aliens now, and they put like B-29. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like what? What are you doing? I mean, I don't know. I think it's got to be difficult for Hollywood to come up with anything original So, I mean, even when they take something like a board game and they try and make it somewhat fresh or trying to put a different spin on it, I have a suggestion. Don't make a movie based on a fucking board game. Like I know, like,
Well, what about Clue? What about Clue though?
well, okay, maybe not. Yeah, all right. So that you could do something with Clue. All right, okay.
I blew
You
your.
win.
I
I'll
win. But
I'll
hey,
say Uncle. Yeah, you got me. You got my arm on that one.
look at it
I'll
this way.
concede. Clue. You can do. They've done it.
Excuse
Yeah.
me. Jumanji. Was
Is
that
that
actually?
even? I don't
I
even know
was.
if that's. Maybe it is. I have no idea. I
I
never
don't
watched the
know. Like, I
first
was
one.
thinking, like, is that yeah, I'm curious
Uh,
whether it's actually based off of a real thing. It's like maybe it was made as a movie tie-in, or is it?
I don't know.
Uh,
Watch you be completely right, and I have to eat shit twice. It's
well,
like,
they might just
like
like
oh,
I
this
was
whole.
going to say, that broken clocks right twice a day, so maybe that's like there might be two things, but because I know they've done that. That's that the sequel is still in still in the theaters around here because they show a lot of those Christian movies and stuff, which is like they'll
Sure.
do like they'll do like a lot of heavy Christian, but then like one hard R film. So it's like GPGGR. It's like the worst one. The R that's still in the theater right now, that 50 Shades Freed or whatever. So basically
Oh,
porn, like bondage
yeah.
porn and stuff. Oh my god. Oh no, I was wrong. It was actually based off a children's book called Jumanji, not the actual book.
Okay. All right.
Okay, 81 children's book. But yeah, it's like like these kind of it's concept wise, it's a
Sure.
board game, but yeah, it's like you got like Clue, and even Clue was a bomb at the theater.
Mm.
People like it because it's real campy and everything. But it's actually a pretty fun movie. But it's fun because of the actors they chose for it.
Like
It
Tim
wouldn't
Curry.
Tim Curry. You had Martin Mull. Was Ed Begley Jr. in that?
I
Was Ed
think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like you had good actors in there. You didn't have scrubs showing up.
Right.
But then you have like these people, kind of they in a way shit the bed. Like when they come to like, hey, let's make this throw $300 million at something. Like you look what happened to Deadpool. You had a guy, you had Ryan Reynolds, who's like, okay, we're going to make this movie $50 million, and he put heart into it, and because he cared about the character, he wanted to see it happen.
Mm.
And then it turned out well. I'm actually looking forward to Deadpool 2. And then you have like that. I can't wait till it comes out because damn it, it's hurting me because I wanted it to come out this year. It should have been out already. That New Mutants movie.
Yeah.
Which it's actually based off of the Demon Bear storyline, which is issue 17 through 20 of the New Mutants, and it was like this. Basically, it's a manifestation of evil psychic influence, and because it's basically feeding off their fears, and because they're kids.
Mm.
And it's like I see all the actors. I'm like I saw the actors, and I knew exactly what characters they were because the way they cast them. That's a good sign. It wasn't like who that's supposed to be. Like there's Wolfsbane, there's Cannonball, like that kind of thing. It's like it looks great. They're trying to make it more horror themed. I guess it's gonna be rated R.
Yeah, it's. I like that they're doing something different with the franchise. You know what I mean? And good for Fox for trying to do something like we're not going to make cookie cutter like X-Men movies like they were doing for years past. It's just like, well, this is the formula. We're going to stick to it. This is what we don't want to rock the boat too much. And then, they do the Deadpool movie, which was awesome. It was a big risk. I mean, they didn't put a ton of money into it, but they just said, fuck it, we're going to do a hard R comic book movie. And just we'll see how this works, and if it bombs, then it bombs, then and then with the New Mutants, I mean, I never really read the New Mutants, but I like that they're doing something different. They're making it like a horror movie or like it's just a different spin on the mutant kind of thing. It's like I've never seen. There's never been an X-Men movie that looks like this one before, and that's gonna put asses in the seats and be like, hey, this is different. I want to see this. I'm gonna go see it.
Yeah, same here.
I'm bummed out that it got pushed back too. But I mean, good things come to those who wait. I hope.
Yeah, and I was thinking, why didn't you release it around like Halloween or something? But you got to
Yeah,
think, they all these theaters, all these movie, like they, if you look at the probably the release date around Halloween leading up to it, there's probably a bunch of movies coming out that I don't want it to compete with all this other stuff. And Deadpool already proved you can release a movie in February, which normally would be like a death knell, like,
yeah,
and then like he doesn't. And nowadays it doesn't really matter about
yeah,
what time you release. It's all about if it looks interesting. So I think it's supposed to come out like next February or something, or next
yeah.
March. But
It's early next year, but that's a bummer that it got pushed back because I was really looking forward to seeing it. But
yeah, same here. But it's like I understand they don't want to compete with other things and kind of like shoot themselves in the foot. And
right,
downside about that is like I said, wait. But like you said, hopefully it should be worth it. I mean, it just turns out another movie coming out actually January or something of next year. The movie called Glass, which
hmm.
is Mr. Glass movie, which is the third in the
Oh,
Unbreakable trilogy. It's the third and
yeah,
final film because there's like I heard about that. It's like I was talking to a guy named Tim Morris. He's got this comic book called Column. It's a, a tank crew and like an M1 Abrams. It's kind of anime inspired. He's got a Kickstarter coming out on April 3rd, and I was talking to him, and he's from around the Philadelphia area. And I was like, he said, "Oh, you need to try this cheesesteak place." We talked about cheesesteaks and everything like that. And so I was like, "Hey, there's a couple comic book stores. Like, where could I go?" And there's one. I was like, "Hey, what's that comic book store again? The one from? It's actually a real comic book store. The comic book store from Unbreakable. That when Samuel Jackson's in it and he's like causing damage and stuff. That's actually a real comic book store."
no shit.
Yeah. So I was like, I looked it up and I was like, man, it's like like 10 minutes away from this cheesesteak place. It's apparently one of the best in Philadelphia. Not that street cheesesteak place. The place this shop is on the corner. It looks like something out of Gotham City. It looks like
Really?
something. It looks cool, and like they do like multiple different kinds. They do the kind with provolone and white American. They do the kind with the what they call whiz, which is really just like
Yeah,
nacho cheese.
yeah.
But I was like, okay, I'll probably get like 2 or 3 subs of different kinds. It's like I take a bite into it, tastes like garbage, throw it in the trash. So I have some options, like But I look it up, and it's apparently they had just finished filming back in December that Glass movie, and it's Samuel Jackson there, and like James McAvoy's character from that Split is going to be
Yeah.
in the movie, and Bruce Willis, and I'm like, you know what? I'm looking forward to this. I'm actually looking forward to M. Night Shyamalan film. I never thought I'd say that. I'm actually looking forward to that. But I heard Split's really good. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I was
I
hoping
have
to get it.
I haven't watched it either. I like I said the last time I was on. I don't get to watch movies a whole lot, or play video games or anything fun. But I haven't seen it yet. But I heard good things. It was like one of the things that came out, and they were like, "Oh, Shyamalan, like this is actually good." Shyamalan, this might put him back on the map and push him back to the level he was at around Unbreakable and Sixth Sense. So, I mean, I've heard good things. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet. But I didn't know about Glass. I really liked Unbreakable. I thought that was a pretty good movie, and it was one of the last times old Bruce looked like he gave a shit on film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
You
like
know.
you don't see him actually give a shit anymore. It's like
No.
it's like I don't know if I ever told you this. It's like it's not when he's like, oh, flaunt it, whatever. But no, Bruce Willis actually grew up right next door to my grandparents, my
Wow,
mother's,
really?
and he was a neighborhood kid. Like he actually graduated. Like him and my mom would actually go and get cigarettes for his uncle.
Wow.
Like they would do like cigarette runs and everything like that, and then every now and then, because Bruce actually comes back, he actually had his childhood home torn down and one lone tree planted where the house was, so
Wow.
he didn't have a really happy home
I,
life.
I can't imagine from the sound of that story. Jesus Christ.
But what's so weird is he reminds me of my grandfather. I'm not saying anything, but just like the attitude, that kind of
Yeah.
that South Jersey grumpy attitude, because it's like it, I'm pretty sure both him and my grandfather had similar childhoods as far as getting beaten at a young age. Like
Yeah.
you either learn to take it or you don't. But yeah, it was like so. I was talking to my grandmother. Oh, he stopped by a little while back. He was visiting his sister in the area. He wanted to see how. So I'm like, wait, Bruce Willis just stopped by the house and came inside. And like, yeah, I was like, he stopped by, sat on the couch, talked for a little bit, then he had to go. And I'm like, John McClane, just rolls up. Like
Come out to the coast. We'll get together. We'll have a few laughs.
well, I remember, like, because it was like one of those things. It's like talking, like it was like, oh, no, he was on Miami Vice, like one of his like first roles, like one of the first few episodes of Miami Vice season 1, and everybody's like, oh, we were so proud of him. It's like that kind of thing. It's like local boy done good kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But yeah, it was like one of those. I've prepared myself in case I'm over at my grandmother's, and then Bruce Willis shows up.
Yeah.
Just that cool. Just that cool. Like, hey, how's it going, Bruce? Like that kind of thing. Not
Love
be
to
like
cop out.
Yeah. Oh God. Like walk up to
punch you in
him.
the face. Yeah, exactly.
Like walk up to him, shake his hand, like do the whole kind of shake hug, and then say, Smith sends his regards. No, of course not.
Exactly.
But it's like I mean, I've had like brushes with like people like nearly me and my dad nearly ran over early for I think I told you that one.
What's her face there?
Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Gosh, she smelled good.
I can imagine. Yeah, yeah.
Like, that sounds so creepy, but it's like considering like how many stinky ass comic book people.
Oh yeah.
And then it was like a field of roses. Yeah, great.
Exactly.
And
it would be even worse if she smelled like a porta potty. You're just like, oh my God, like how could something that beautiful smell that bad? But
and like, honestly. Yeah. You don't lie. You probably try to look past it. You try to block it out.
Yeah.
Like,
put a clothespin on my nose.
Just thank God I ain't Jennifer Aniston.
Oh no.
Oh man, but it's like that's the thing. It's like I saw and experienced the crowd rush of Ice Cube. Ice Cube. Oh. He was at a
wow.
I was staying at the Westin in Charlotte, and I was coming down the elevator banks, and I come down, and the elevator banks open up, and then you go left, and you go out we go towards the lobby, and then the main doors, you go right towards the bar and grill, and I was going to the left, and all like the doors open up from the elevator bank on my left hand side, and these guys start running out, and they're like, what the hell's going on? Ice Cube's here, he's over there, and I'm like, ah, crap. Because I'm going to I'm going to wait till the crowd disperses to actually go over there and get out of here.
Right.
And if people push it, I'm kind of like shimmying and everything. I'm trying to shimmy towards Ice Cube, and I'm shimmying away. And I had to get up. They had these like potted plant like area, these like they're kind of raised. So I had to balance myself on them. So I saw Ice Cube. He looked just like Ice Cube. It wasn't like being anybody different or anything. I was like, all right. That's cool. I'm out of here. I had to go get me something to eat. I'm like, I pay $15 for a burger at a little bar and grill, but a crap burger. I go and get me I could give me a whole pizza for that much across the street. It was one.
Oh, go ahead. So
no, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say I had a funny little story running into an actor one time. You familiar with William Sadler?
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay, all right. So I was on Nantucket Island up here in Massachusetts. I was there with my wife and her friend from college and her fiance, and we spent the weekend up there and hanging out. And you got to take a ferry back to the mainland, I guess. So we're on the boat. And the Nantucket Film Festival was that weekend. I didn't know anything about it. We weren't there for that. It was just coincidence. And so we're on the boat. We're sitting at this big table, and it's the four of us, and we're kind of having our own little conversation. And this guy walks over. He's like, is anybody sitting here? And I look up, and it's William Sadler. And I'm like, holy shit, it's Bill Sadler. Like, oh, wow. And like I mean he's like a that guy actor, you know what I mean? He's been in a million things. Most of them have been really cool, like like Demon Knight. He was on the show Roswell, and then of course Shawshank Redemption, so that's like what he's like. Everybody knows him from that. So I lock eyes with him, and he notices that like my eyes like just looked like saucers. And he's like, oh shit, he knows who I am. And so we're like, no one's sitting here. No one picks up on who he is. I'm the only one that's like, holy shit, you're in movies. And so he sits down and he kind of like sets his stuff. And his wife is there, and she sits across from him. So we're all kind of like, we go back to our conversation. I'm constantly going over and glancing back at him just because he's an actor. He's a movie guy. It's wow, he's right there. So my wife's friend and her fiance get up and they go another part of the boat, and then as to not draw attention to the situation, but to let my wife know that there's somebody famous right across from us, I take out my phone and I text her. I said, the guy across from us is William Sadler. He's an actor. He was in the Shawshank Redemption. Be cool. And so her phone goes, vroom, vroom. She flips it open. She reads it. She turns to me. She goes, where? And I'm like, fuck. I look over at him and his eyes slap to me. I'm like, fuck. So, oh no. So after like, and so I kind of like pull up his IMDb, and she looks at him and then looks at the IMDb. She's like, oh yeah, shit, it is him. He was in Shawshank Redemption. Oh wow. So her friends come back. We sit down and we're like all talking. And I catch myself looking over at him. And then finally, like the third or fourth time he and I made eye contact, I said, excuse me, sir, are you William Sadler? He says, yes, I am. I said, I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you, but I'm a big fan. I love your movies. He's like, oh, what's your name? I'm like, I'm Pete. He's like, call me Bill. So I'm like, oh, this is so cool. So he was the coolest shit. He sat with us for like it's an hour-long boat ride. So you really, unless he would have just said like, nice to meet you folks, and then just fucked off in another part of the boat, like he was stuck there with us. But he was like the nicest guy. He just sat there and shot the shit with us. Hey, what do you guys do for work? And it turns out like my wife's friend's fiance, he grew up in the same kind of area of New York, well, he was from Buffalo, but this kid was from New York City. And there was like this place where William Sadler went to act, and he lived in a section of town that was near. Like, oh, did you go to this bagel place? Oh, that place is awesome. They just closed it down. He's like, no way. It was like, holy shit, is this really happening? This is cool as hell. And then like he kind of said, well, it was nice to meet you guys. And then it was like he just turned his head and went back to his computer, and that was it. And and then before we left the boat, we said goodbye too. But I thought that was like cool as shit. It was like there's the guy from Demon Knight sitting right across from us. It's like
Death.
it was
There's
pretty interesting.
Death from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Oh yeah, he was Death. And
that's 3 out of 5.
Yeah. Oh man.
He was so good. Like, he's like one of those actors. It's like he's in something like other than Die Hard 2, where it was ties back there. Dude, ties
you
back.
Get to see his ass in Die Hard 2 doing kung fu and
naked judo. Was naked kung fu in like a movie. Like that's one movie I did not like, and I still don't like. It's like I don't hate it, but I just don't like it. It's just too aggressive, and not in a good way. Not in like that. Like Fury Road's an aggressive movie.
Yeah,
but it's just aggressive and like, yeah, we got to be hard. It's like, it's kind of like where Predator 2 was very aggressive, but it kind of worked because it almost become cartoonish, like 50 dead bodies. Morton Downey Jr. There's a bloodbath. Like, and I always wondered if you actually got shot pouring cocaine on the wound, would that actually numb it up? Because I know it's a numbing agent. So like, would that actually help? It's like
I don't want to find out.
I don't want to either. It's like I don't want to be in a situation where I'm shot and my only medical recourse is to crack open a kilo of coke and then snort it and put it in my wound. Like, no, thank you.
Well, you see, officer, I'm only keeping this kilo of coke in case I get shot, so I don't. It's just to numb it. So that's my excuse, Your Honor. You're just sitting there, well, Your Honor,
medical grade cocaine, Your Honor. For emergency reasons.
The off chance I get shot. Exactly right. It's medical purposes, Your Honor.
You could tell him it's like it's a whore bait. It's like I'm going hunting for trim, Your Honor.
Well, in that case dismissed. You're free to go. So
you need to give me a little bit of that. You need to give me a bag of that right there. All right, you got it, Your Honor.
But I hear what you're saying about Die Hard 2, though. It's kind of a weird sequel in that, like, it's exactly the same as the original. Like, in the case, like, I like three. Three is obviously the best Die Hard sequel. I don't think
Yes.
most people can disagree. Well, I mean, people could probably disagree with that, but I think the common consensus is it's like one, three, two, four, and I don't even acknowledge five. The fifth movie was like just it was just the guy that directed it never watched a Die Hard movie before. It was oh god, I don't even gonna get into
It,
that.
it, it
But
was basically a triple X. It was like a triple. It was like triple
yeah,
X. It was just.
it was oh piss poor. It was just Jesus Christ. So, but two is kind of I like it. And who was that? Rennie Harlan directed that one. I think
Randy
that's a
Harlan.
Ren.
Yep.
Yeah, he's actually not bad of a director. I mean, he hasn't directed a lot of great movies, but he's competent and he makes good action movies. I just it's not as good as the first one, even though obviously it's almost like exactly the same premise as the first one, but it's I think it's too formulaic, as a sequel. It's like, oh, what, like, let's take the greatest hits from the first one and just trying to sprinkle in all this other stuff, and just, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great either.
And that's the unfortunate thing. It's kind of like I used to really dislike Back to the Future 2,
Mm,
and then dislike Back to the Future 3. Then I started coming around to both. Like without Back to the Future 2, you wouldn't have Back to the Future 3.
right.
And Back to the Future 2 felt like they wanted to do a western, but they had to have a bridge between.
Yeah.
They couldn't. They wanted to do something a little different, and it was like I like it. I like both now, but you know I don't think anybody can like you know Highlander 2 The Quickening.
Oh god. Hey, I'm actually okay. So I don't hate Highlander 2: The Quickening. Okay, so let me preface this
Oh,
by
okay.
saying, yeah, all right. Hear me out
Okay.
before this conversation ends abruptly. I think it was the first Highlander movie I ever saw. I remember there was this kid that lived behind me named Billy, and Billy was like 2 years older than me, and we hung out a lot. He gave me a call one day. He's like, "Hey, let's go to the movies." I'm like, "All right, well, what do you want to go to see?" Like, we're gonna go see Highlander 2. I'm like, well, all right, I guess we're going to see Highlander 2. I'd never heard of the first Highlander. I had no clue about any of this. And the movie theater was fairly close, so we would walk. And I was like 13 at the time. So we're walking there, and I'm like, so what's this about? And he's telling me about immortals and beheadings and Queen and Sean Connery and just like I'm like, wow, this sounds fucking awesome. I can't wait. Like we like ran the rest of the way. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then like so the movie starts, and then obviously like it's nothing like the first one. But as somebody that's never saw the first one, that has this is completely fresh eyes, I thought all the Zeist stuff was just like from the original movie. Like how sometimes we make
Oh
a
yeah.
sequel, yeah, and it was like scenes from the original movie. Like I'm like, oh, it's okay. This is cool. Like it's picking up. Like they brought everybody back. I had no clue, and I was like, remember how I said like I love Crawl?
Yeah.
Like it gave me like a Crawl slash Dune vibe. I like sci-fi mixed with fantasy, like sword and sorcery fantasy, throw in a little space and aliens and laser guns. Like a 13-year-old me ate that shit up. And I was like, this movie's fucking awesome. They got the little fucking porcupine guys and the hoverboards floating around. I'm like, this is great. And like, Sean Connery shows up, and he was great to watch. I mean, Michael Ironsides, John C. McGinley, like I mean, everybody. At the time, I loved it. And I'm like, damn, this. And then like we left the theater. I'm like, that was awesome. He's like, that was the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. That was terrible. I'm like, what are you talking about? That was great with the hoverboards. He's like, fuck that, fuck this. That movie can suck a dick. He ranted and raved and just went on and on. The entire walk home was completely different because my needs were completely satisfied. And yeah, it looked cheap as shit. But I didn't. I was 13 years old. I mean, no one really has a good grasp of what's awesome and what is like. I just for what I was going in there expecting, having no expectations. it was like, oh wow, that was different, that was cool. But from him and his vantage point of watching the original, he was just like, that was terrible. So I always kind of had a soft spot in my heart for Highlander 2. Because then again, like I went back and like I went to the video store and I watched the first one, like, wow, that was fucking what were they thinking, you know? And then as I got older with age, I mean, just like, holy shit. Because then, I go back and I watch the series, and even the other sequels weren't nearly, well, maybe the fifth one was pretty fucking terrible. But that, to answer your question, yes, it's a fucking terrible sequel. It is a dog shit terrible sequel. However, for me, I can't hate on it like everyone else does. Only because it was the first time I had ever seen anything Highland. It was like the first taste of it. And as somebody that likes fantasy and sci-fi mixed together, I was all about it. So I mean, that's just me, I guess.
Well, I think I kind of like that because of Star. Even though the original story is just sci-fi, it has
Mm,
the fantasy elements, like with the kind of like the evil. Even though he's alien, but you look at him like these, like with the soldiers.
yeah,
With them that mechanical heads, like the those Anubis looking soldiers with the
yeah.
like that great look and like the darkness and everything. The way that movie looked was great.
It's got Kurt Russell in it too, so you can't
Kurt
go wrong.
Russell, like, Kurt Russell's great in that. Like the TV shows that spawned out of that was SG-1 and then Atlantis and Stargate Universe, which I never really watched. So, but you had these shows, like, I mean, that lived on for like 10 years plus. Like,
Yeah.
they had a legacy. Like, the movie was. I watched it a bunch as a kid. I rented the tape so many times. The people at the video station was like, "It'd be cheaper if you bought it."
I owned it on VHS. Yeah.
It was good. It was a really good movie.
Yeah. It
But
made
I
me
liked it.
it made me excited for like a Star Wars movie, like the flying spaceships and shit like that, flying around the desert. I'm like, man, this would be cool. Like Star Wars. It made me want a new Star Wars, and then ever since then, just said, why the fuck did they make more Star Wars movies? They should have stopped at 3. But that's a whole nother fucking tirade.
Yeah, it's really. I got to the point now where I talked about it for an hour just the other night. Talked about it a little bit like last night. And
I'm
it
not
was
gonna
like,
I'm not gonna put you through it.
oh no, no,
I
it's like
promise.
it's got to the point where I'm not even angry anymore. It's just that deep disappointment that there's potential with Star Wars. Like somebody could say, all right, you can. Okay, we got Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill is like out. Harrison Ford doesn't want to be it no more.
Yeah,
Carrie Fisher was just like it was rough to see her in Force Awakens because
it
all the
was.
years of drug abuse, and then they do and then they put her like, trying to make her more role and everything, and then after the like they could have done something in post, like they could have killed her off in the movie,
Mm.
and people would have been like, oh, that's how dare you, but like the idea of, oh, she could have died but didn't, in the
Yeah.
movie, but she's gonna die in between.
Yeah, I don't know. Talk about a gamble that was fucking, you know, that didn't pay off. I mean, you got Harrison Ford. Yeah, he's like, fuck this. I don't want to do this anymore. You kill him off. You got Mark Hamill who would have done it for a sandwich, and you killed him off. And then you got Carrie Fisher. She's the only one left, and then she fucking dies in real life, and she survives the film. I don't care what they do next because it's not going to be good no matter what they do.
No,
So I mean, I'll see it in all likelihood because I go with a group of guys that they all go, see these movies, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go, but I have no anticipation. I could give a shit about this Han Solo movie they've got coming out. I could care less about episode fucking 9, 10, 12, whatever Disney decides to shit out next. I'm not on board. I'm off that train. The Last Jedi was the last Star Wars movie for me that I don't care. I had no anticipation for that one. I was so disappointed with The Force Awakens, and it's funny. This. It's like anything that you can drum up in your mind is going to be better. Like when you have that kind of level of, because Star Wars isn't just like a movie series; it's a cultural phenomenon. It's really a big thing. So when you've got the opportunity to have the original cast back for one last adventure, you have some level of kind of like, what are they going to do? How are they going to do this? I just wanted all of them in one scene, like R2, 3PO, Chewbacca, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, and Han Solo, even Lando Calrissian. Like,
Yeah, well,
bring
where's Lando? Like they talk
with
about this inclusive bullshit, but they don't even include like Billy D. Williams. God love
he's
him. He's still
yeah,
kicking. Get him
yeah, oh,
back.
yeah, get him back. Why not? Why not?
Even for just a little bit, even for like just like he's like running some casino planet or some bullshit like that. Like they
Yeah.
did that. He could have been running that planet, that Last Jedi.
Oh yeah,
But
the
like they
fucking 1%er planet that Bernie Sanders is fucking. That's the top 1/10 of 1%. We need to make the space better make their fair share. Ugh, ugh, ugh.
it's just
Yeah,
what a message.
Billy D. Williams. Though you're right. Fuck, bring Lobot back. Bring his bald ass back. Shit, bring him all. But like, you could have done something cool, and you fucking dropped the ball. Now one of them's dead. The other two you killed off, and now you're on fuck street. Fuck that franchise. Fuck Disney. I'm done. I'm tapping out. I'm.
Well, it's like I'm the same way, like what they should have just done is like, okay, we're not going to be like continuing on the movies, like like whether it be 20, 30 years later, whatever. That's just dumb.
Hmm,
Instead, let's set it like 1,000 years in the future. This is like the Knights of the New Republic, kind of
sure.
like an inverse of the Old Republic. You could do whatever you want. Luke's ghost could show up and like guide somebody, kind of like Obi Wan a
Sure.
little bit.
They
And
could
that
do
right there,
something. Yeah.
new characters, no Millennium Falcon, just it's still Star Wars, and keep it. Oh God, I promise someone do this, but no, but it's like Star Wars should be. It's a fantasy tale. It's basically the movie. Think of Excalibur, but then you put science fiction wrapping on top of Excalibur. You know,
Exactly.
it's
It was
it's
such a
hard.
cool. It was such a cool. The first movie was such a cool mix of like, it was like a samurai film. It was a western. It was a. It was a like a princess in a castle movie. Like, and it was. They had all these cool. I mean, George Lucas never came up with an original thought in his fucking life, but at least he did something. What he cooked up was something really cool, and it was an amalgamation of just a lot of um, classic storytelling ideas, and then I don't know.
Well, and the thing about it is, people shit all over. Like I used to shit on George Lucas a lot, especially after the prequels and everything. And there's people like, oh, Star Wars was made in editing. New Hope, it wouldn't have existed if it weren't for the editing. Well, you look at any movie. You look at these movies. Like movies don't. They're not shot. Okay, they get in the scene and then they don't edit anything. Everything's editing. Everything is edited down to the proper.
Mm,
Pulp Fiction was made in the editing. We don't want to talk
absolutely.
about that. And that right there to stand out, because at the end of the day, if you didn't edit it that way, the movie would just be bland. It'd be like not say bland, but
It
like if you
wouldn't.
told
It
it,
wouldn't be what it was
yeah,
without
it'd
the
be a
editing.
linear story would have
Right.
like it wouldn't stand out, because really at the end of the day, I think I think what happened is because like Tarantino just ripped off that Chinese movie, that Hong Kong movie, to do Reservoir Dogs. It's just a blatant rip off.
Mm.
And then he did Pulp Fiction. It's like, shit, I don't have a beginning, I don't have an end. Just edit it so I don't so nobody will know. Nobody will think about that.
Right.
That's exactly what he did. But like
Yeah.
you look at Star Wars. Right? I'll call it New Hope. It's a little easier, but you look at New Hope, and it's made in the editing. So you're telling me the scene where they go down to the prison level and Chewie breaks free and they take down the guards, and then like, what well, what's going on down there? Everything's fine down here. Everything's fine down here. How are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, that was made in the editing. No, it wasn't. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like, if it wasn't for George Lucas writing that and like directing that, you wouldn't have that footage. It doesn't matter what they did. It's like what they say from like the editors cobbled it together on a magical editing wheel or
Sure.
some bullshit.
Sure.
But like, aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper? Like, hey,
What an incredible smell you've discovered. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care if you don't like it down there. It's like, get down there. It's like, it's not in that Marvel quippy, over the top. It felt like real people while they talk. It's kind of the gallows humor, and it worked.
Well, it's I know you're a fan of Red Letter Media, and
Yep.
that when they made that comparison between Rogue One and the kind of banter back and forth and what was done in the original Star Wars, it's just like it's night and day, and it's like, and I think Rogue One has been the best of the Disney ones. I and that's just my opinion. I think mostly because it is a tie-in to the original
Which was
series.
disturbing. That was way too disturbing with the CGI faces for
Oh, the CGI. What's
Tarkin
his
and
Peter
Leia.
Cushing? Yeah, that was kind of creepy. You know, yeah, totally creepy. But I mean, I kind of welcomed it because it's just like it brought me back to my childhood. And again, that's just my personal gripe. I mean, some people are fine with blowing it up and making it for a new generation. Okay, fine. If that's what Disney wants to do, then fine. I don't have to come along for the ride. I don't have to give them my fucking $15, which I fucking will end up doing anyway. But it's one of these deals where I don't know. I like the original three so much that I just don't. I almost feel like everything that they continue to do kind of taints it a little bit more. I mean, they're always going to be there. Well, maybe not the original ones before George Lucas threw fucking CGI all over it. Talk about throwing CGI in a movie and making it look like shit, just distracting you. Like that one scene when they were on the in Mos Eisley, and they has this fucking dinosaur looking thing just walk in front of the screen, just completely blot out the entire screen. Like what is that? Why did you just completely ruin a frame of film? Just put this CGI shit in front of it, and it's like I don't get it. But until Disney puts out the original untouched trilogy, I mean, I've got them all on VHS. I'm still, I'm still holding on to those like gold. But yeah, I just to me, I'll always have those, and I'll be grateful for it. That's what I'm going to show my kids when they grow up, and be like, hey, Dad, what's Star Wars? Oh no, you sit on your ass. You're going to watch this, and they're going to start bringing up Jar Jar Binks or Ray or any of this other nonsense. It's like, that is not Star Wars, kid. All right, that's propaganda. That's dog shit. We don't discuss that in this home. If you want to talk about Poe Dameron, you get the fuck out of my house and you don't come back.
You get to the Poe house.
You're in the Poe house.
Oh my! It's like that's one of those things people forget that those don't exist no more. What we, as a kid, I got to see the original versions. I got to see before they started, before Lucas started fucking with it. And the biggest thing is like that thing comes back to it: the idea that him and his wife divorced, and because she was, because California, it's like, well, if you were married to somebody and they did something or made a lot of money or something or created something in the meantime while you were married, you get the spouse, the woman gets the rights to that, like part right and partly, and so, but if he changes it enough, she doesn't get it. That's the theory. That's the fan theory, conspiracy theory.
Right.
So it's like he changed it so much, pissed everybody off, just so he could piss her off, and like doing it. And but because of how like the a lot of like what happened to Anthony, Opie and Anthony, like his whole he couldn't really talk about his ex-wife. So you think, well, George Lucas, and also the embarrassment of like your wife basically taking the thing that you're known for, and then taking like any money that's made off of that, she gets like a big percentage of it, maybe 50% of the profits you make. So he's like, all right, fuck you, watch this.
Yeah, right.
It's like, what he's going to do? Tell people you can't talk about them proceedings. You can't disclose. Like, oh yeah, I owe my wife 50%. That's the rumor. And maybe he told a friend, and that friend told somebody, and that told that kind of thing. Or it might just be total bullshit. Who knows? Or he might just lost his fucking mind. His wife left him. Like, that's another thing. His wife divorced him, and maybe because she edited all three, of the original. So maybe it was like he wanted to. It was like, oh, this is a nice Christmas card that this person gave you, and you cut it up and throw it in the trash. It's the equivalent of doing that.
Right.
But it's maybe something along those lines. Who knows? It could be either he's jilted or he just spiteful, vindictive, and I do like the idea that he's sad that he sold it off and he wish he didn't.
Right.
It's like people like, but they're like, what was he doing the whole thing? It's like before. It's like, oh, George Lucas sucks. And he did. There, I started watching. Like maybe like 2 minutes into I stopped it. That People versus George Lucas. That
Oh
documentary.
yeah, I saw that, and I didn't. I don't remember if I watched it or not. If I did, it didn't leave an impression. I know of it though. I it's on Netflix, I think, right?
I think it's
Or
on
was
Amazon
it?
Prime too. I think it's
No,
on.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on Prime, but it might be on both. But yeah, it's like I started watching. It's like you people, you people are to blame for the Disney Star Wars. You you
Yeah.
you drove this fragile human being to sell off to sell off Star Wars. Which what I guess one of those good what ifs. What if Star Wars was still in like Lucas family hands, like to his daughters or something?
Sure.
And like who's saying like who's to say they probably couldn't do no worse at the very least. Like get people that love Star Wars. Like look what they used to do, those fan films and stuff, like
Oh yeah.
Troops and other stuff. That's the main thing
Yeah.
I can think of. But
They
you can
couldn't
see
have done any worse. They really couldn't have done any worse than what Disney's done. And I don't know how I feel about the new Indiana Jones. Like the only thing that I've kind of got any hope for is that Spielberg's still on board. Like, and I know Spielberg's had some ups and downs there, but I think the stuff in Crystal Skull that I liked, that was like kind of throwback Indiana Jones stuff, and I kind of understand why they went. I know we're kind of going off of Star Wars, but I'm kind of trying to save you here.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Because I know you've been doing Star Wars, so so with the Indiana Jones stuff, I kind of get why they went the path they did for the fourth one, because it's like a '50s era. You think
Fourth one.
'50s?
What
Oh, fourth. I'm sorry. Yeah, fourth.
There's only
Oh,
three.
yeah, yeah.
There's only three.
There's only three. Yeah.
No, but
No,
it's
you
like
got me.
I remember watching that movie. I watched that at the same day. I went on a date to see. I saw Indiana Jones. I saw Crystal Skull. Then I was supposed to go pick my date up. And we're supposed to watch Crystal Skull, and then God help me, she wanted to watch that Sex and the City movie, the first one.
Jesus. Oh God.
And she's like, "Oh no, I'll get there. I'm picking a friend up," and I'm like, "Friend, what the fuck?" And it was a girlfriend of hers, and she wanted me to pay for her girlfriend, and I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that."
What?
And so it turns out that the girl that I was seeing, she had a long term boyfriend, and everybody knew except me. No, and she knew, of course. Her friend knew, and her friend was always laughing at me. And I was thinking she's high as fuck because she had like these really dark circles under her eyes. I thought she was stoned all the time. No, she was just laughing because it's like I was being like, so I was a fucking joke. Everybody knew except me, and it was like I felt like Carrie. It's like if I had psychic powers.
Yeah.
Be pretty. Like, and my friends were like, "Larry, we thought you knew," and like the other ones were like, "Larry, we don't want to hurt your feelings," and I'm like, "I hate you all. I hate you all." But yeah, but there's nothing like honestly. I actually just the other day I watched all the Indiana Jones movies, all three of them chronologically.
Yes.
So that's the beginning. That's the beginning of Last Crusade to the part where
I was going to say chronologically. Did you? I got you.
Yeah,
So at the beginning, and then like
when he's on the boat, because when the hat goes down, the guy is like, "Hey, you lost, kid, but it doesn't have to mean you like it." And he puts the hat on Indy. Then I stopped it. Then started watching Temple of Doom. Watched Temple of Doom start to finish. Then watched Raiders start to finish. Then picked up right there at the end where on the boat sequence from Last Crusade,
awesome.
And it was great. And I was like, and I know people hate this one. Temple of Doom is my favorite Star Wars favorite Star Wars.
It may as well be. If they made that, if Disney made that, that would be my favorite Star Wars. Favorite Disney Star Wars.
There you go. Han Solo, that's the thing. Like, people forget, Indy is holding Willie as a human shield and has a fork.
Yeah,
it's like the kind of the barbecue forks or whatever.
Yeah,
to her ribs. Wow. And he's like, he's like, "You gonna shoot me? You gotta shoot through her first." And he's like,
right.
"Don't worry, I'll get another." And it's like, and he stabs the dude with the shish kebab, the flaming shish kebab. there's like murder and like somebody. I was reading some like comment or something somebody put. It's like, yeah, it's anti-gun. He Willie drops the gun. It's like, no, it's just like that's his like fuck my life. It's like the whole
Oh yeah,
his hot
exactly.
gun, and she's like ah. It's like you asshole.
Yeah,
You're
I
still a
cracked a
bitch.
nail.
I burned my fingers and I cracked nails. It's like, oh, fucking terrific, my life.
Yeah.
But if you still had that pistol, even if you had extra ammo, there's only so many Tuggy members he could actually kill with that.
Well, and think he's also got a kid with him, so he's
Yeah.
getting shot at with the kid with him. So I mean, like, you know, yeah,
The family vacation to hell.
Oh yeah.
It is the hell. They go deep down in the earth and there's flames and fire and parts getting ripped out and torture.
Oh Nam Shibai, oh Nam Shibai, oh Nam Shibai. Well, this is kind of an interesting honeymoon, honey. Well, like, what's this? Is what I mean? It's like vacation in hell.
Never mind me and my little Asian boy.
Exactly. You stop in the Philippines? Like, what the fuck's going on here? Oh,
Man,
no.
thank God Short Round didn't say anything like sucky and like, oh no.
Oh, no. No time for love, Dr. Jones. He's trying to rip his pants up. No time.
It's like, and like he's he's going for the antidote, and clearly he's dying because the poison you just drank, Dr. Jones. But he's reaching into Willie's outfit,
Oh yeah.
grabbing tit and looking for the thing, and like would she tuck the antidote underneath her tit or something?
Right, exactly.
It's like well, I'm women do that, so it's like that kind of thing. It's like how funny that would be. It's like this. So there's murder, there's attempted murder, there is using of a human shield, assault with a deadly weapon,
The sexual assault,
endangering a minor, and that's only in the first like 10 minutes of the movie.
in a PG movie.
Oh, thank God! You know what?
It was right after that they made the PG-13, but that was that's technically a PG. Yes, yeah, no, you're right. Yep, it was that and Gremlins. So it was that was the last of the wonderful good times of the 80s. That's the 80s for you.
Yeah,
I remember
Poltergeist is a PG movie.
Yes, can you believe it? Oh, it's amazing.
Face getting ripped off. Even though the effects are not the greatest, it's still creepy as fuck to see.
Yes.
And people forget that, like, really up until like the late 80s, 90s, every time you see a skeleton in a movie, that's an actual human skeleton.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I was like, oh my God, so that means like so you have like these people doing special effects, you get a bunch of skeletons ordered in from like India or China or wherever, and they're bleached and they're all wired up and everything. And you got to put gore and skin and muscle and all that stuff. Like
put like worms through it and shit. And,
yeah, it's like unless they're going for something cartoony, like Ray Harryhausen didn't use human skeletons. That
right,
didn't worry about that.
You just animate them.
Exactly. He's like little statue looking things. Little
Grandma Tran on a
oh no! She was on the Ho Chi Minh Trail.
Tran. Exactly.
She was on.
She a movie star now. You watch as Ray Harryhausen is like with Jason and the Argonauts.
Oh Jesus, no! But it's like. But that's there was a guy. He was a local historian around here named Claude Moore, and he had this old cabin that was like his family's ancestral home. And he had a musket and like that powder horn, and for some reason he had a coffin with a skeleton in it, and Jesus. I don't know why, but he had that going on, and so we checked it out. Like we're over there, and he grabbed the musket and loaded it up with black powder, no shots, but just fired off the musket.
Right.
And it was like this really, and he was like, and they did the grave robbing. The grave robbers would go and they would get the skeletons and they would take them apart and boil them and sell them to universities for display. It's like that's creepy.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why you have to pay people extra money to bury you deeper in the earth, because if you didn't, you would actually end up. You'd be dug back up and they'd rob you whatever you got buried with, and then they'd end up selling your skeleton to some university or high school or something.
Jesus Christ, how fucking morbid is that? Ugh.
Grave robbers are a real deal, dude. I mean, they've been doing that for what, thousands of years? Like for whatever rituals. It's just creepy as fuck, or rituals or money.
All right.
And it's just I don't know, man. It's like there's some fucked up people, but you look at I mean, but going back to the movies of the '80s, like like you got Gremlins. I'm not a big fan of Gremlins one. I like Gremlins two more.
Yeah, I haven't watched Gremlins 2 in a while, but I just remember it being of a lighter note than the original, and I think that was a lot to do with people's maybe parents complaining about like what they thought were going into a kids movie, and it was just fucking chaos. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I remember. Oh, I remember the redhead in that movie, but I remember liking it, but um, it's been a while since I've seen it. I'll have to check it out.
Well, I was at Walmart and they actually had a 3-pack, which was Goonies, Gremlins one and two. So it was
Whoa.
like a pretty cool 3-pack on DVD, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Fuck it, why not?" So I picked it up. But that's another thing. Like that movie, even though it's on a lighter tone, it's still pretty like fucked up and twisted, and I loved it. And like that's like, but it's more fun, and it's like, I like Gremlins one. There's like kind of depressing because there's like yeah, there's mayhem and all this other stuff going around, but
That
in
Phoebe
the
Cates story.
oh god, yeah, they kind of do something. They kind of joke on that in the second one. It's like I'm not a fan of Halloween because on Halloween, and they cut her off. It's like it's something like that. But yeah, it's like really fun. Like it's a fun movie, and it's got oh crap, um Julian Glover, I think that's the actor's name, who voiced the Riddler in the Batman animated series, and
Oh
was
yeah.
he was in that commercial in RoboCop 2, where the guy steals the car and gets electrocuted to death. Which like I mean,
I
probably need
love
to.
that.
I love that stuff too. Like RoboCop 2 is another one that gets a lot of. It used to get like a lot of crap, but I always loved it. It's just it's more brutal, and it doesn't have that full tone of like the Verhoeven of the
Yeah.
first one. But with Kane, that right there, that Kane creeped me out. Especially when like you see the truck show up and the camera's underneath the truck, and you see the truck shake back and forth like something's moving, and then you see the foot go down. And this was before the Velociraptors, and
Yes.
which is actually funny because Phil Tippett, who did Kane and Ed 209, he's the one that did the Velociraptors with the toe click stuff in
Yes.
Jurassic Park. And so when you see Kane's feet turn and he's stalking after the kid, the mayor, and everything, it's like, "Fuck you, you old asshole! Fuck you!" And the little kid Kane, no Hob, that was the kid's name,
Yes.
Hob. But and that Hob was like the somewhat adopted son of Worf on TNG in some episode of TNG.
Was that the same kid?
Yeah, the same kid. That's the one where the
Oh.
Worf is leading a away mission and is responsible for the all the lives on the away mission. And a woman dies, one of this crew members of the Enterprise,
I
and her
vaguely
husband.
remember that episode. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a husband. Her husband died a while back, and then so she's raising her son alone, and then she dies, and Worf feels responsible, and kind of adopts him at the end of the episode, and he's
Hmm.
never heard of again.
Did he end
But
up in a shirtless? Did he end up shirtless in a crate heading off to another continent like
he had
Swamp
to.
Thing's pal?
The
That
Ferengi sold
episode.
him. The Ferengi sold him off. The slavery.
That episode was on last night. I haven't
Oh,
had
it
a chance to
was.
watch it. Yeah, yeah, I couldn't. I can't wait to watch it. But I taped it. It's on at like 5 in the morning. I'm not gonna get up to watch it. But yeah, I couldn't wait. It was there's just that indelible image of that shirtless kid in a crate getting shipped off to God knows where. This is the last time he's ever on the show.
Oh,
I meant to mention too. It's like they did bring him up again. That was like I think in like season 2, they had some like well, because it's supposedly in like Louisiana, they had this kind of voodoo lady come and say that like oh, I saw your son. I had a vision that your son he was in Africa or South America or something. And so then like the lady that was like played his mom or the character that played his mom, like she like gets up and like leaves to go find him. Like if your son was killed, and well they played it off like I forgot to mention this. They had this elaborate ruse. Dr. Arcane and the sheriff, they had this big ruse and plan about how to fake this kid's death so that they'd have some sort of story to tell. So they took Frog Boy and killed Frog Boy and stuck him under a car with a bike next to it and blew up the car. Because we all know that, like, when you run over a kid on a bike, the car explodes. So that's what they did, so they couldn't identify the kid. So they tell the chief of police there, the sheriff, goes to the mother's house. It's like, I hate to say that there was an accident down by the bogs. And so they buried the kid. Meanwhile, the kid's alive out in, doing slave labor somewhere in another continent. Yeah.
Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone.
Blood diamonds.
Blood diamonds. Exactly.
He'll end up like what is it? Shinzon from Star Trek. Was it the Nemesis?
Oh, yeah.
He'll be leading the mutants.
Exactly. Some uprising.
And he's going to take his revenge on Swamp Thing.
He's like, why didn't you save me? You did every other episode, but now like you just like, oh, I'm tired of this kid. I just want to mope in the swamp. Get the fuck out of here. Off you go. It just like but like in season 2, like they never brought the kid back, but the mother like went to go find him, and then she was gone for a couple episodes, or I don't know if she was gone. Period. I didn't get very far. I gave up on that show after they did an episode where you remember what was it Mark Curry, the MTV VJ? Yeah. Okay, so they had him on as this like heavy metal rocker. And it was like, oh yeah. It's hilarious. So they had these kids at the beginning of the episode. They're listening to his music, and it's just like fucking shitty hair metal, like pedal to the metal, and it's just really shit lyrics. I remember it was terrible. And then so like these kids had like he has like this earring or something. They had matching earring, and then they like hung themselves together. Like they just committed suicide, like together, like listening to his music. That was the big thing at the time. Oh yeah, exactly. Autoerotic asphyxiation. They just hung themselves, like doing just degenerate shit. But no,
David Carradine saw this episode and said,
dedicated to David Carradine. But no, that's great too. It's like the music was so shit they hung himself. But the thing of it is that like the record company was trying to like the parents were trying to blame this guy. It harkens back to the Judas Priest stuff and when Ozzy was on trial and subliminal messages. And they're trying to play it up like Mark Curry was just this dickhead that didn't care about his fans. And, hey, but I'm number one on the charts. What do I care if these kids kill themselves? I had nothing to do with it. So then Swamp Thing comes and, like, makes him realize the error of his ways and that his music is evil and he needs to take responsibility for it. And then, like, at the end, he has, like, this awakening and he's like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And, my rockin' days are done. And it was just fucking dreadful. And I was like, you know what? I'm done with Swamp Thing, I think. I mean, after that, it could have been like Alan Moore level writing. It was like, you know what I mean? They could have done like a complete turnaround after that episode. And I would never know because I never went back. It was pretty god awful. I remember loving that show as a kid, but I went back and watched it a few years ago. I mean, that kid in the crate was the highlight of the whole run. It was perfect. It was like, how are we going to write this kid off? I don't know. Let's just fucking sell him into slave labor and just completely, like, never bring him up again. Sounds good to us. Just all right. Send it out. And that was what they did. That was the best write-off of a character in the history of television, if you ask me. I've never seen anything better.
I don't think anybody else could beat it. I honestly can't think of anything else that can beat it. I actually watched that Rolling Vengeance again, that movie I told you about.
I've been meaning to watch that. I haven't had a free 2 hours, but oh god, yeah.
I can't believe I found it. It's like I was like, oh my god, because last time I saw it, it was like in 7 parts. Like somebody broke it up in 7 parts.
Oh jeez, yeah.
And I was like, how long ago it was on there when you can only load so much on
it's like 10-minute clips at a time, yeah.
Yeah, and it was this, and the music in there, it's like I'm coming up on you this time, and it's like the montage. That's this montage song where he's building the monster truck. Nobody knows what I know. No one can feel my pain. And it's like, oh god, it's so bad. But it's the actor, the main guy. I was like, wait, I think the guy's done something else. So I looked it up, and I was like, the main guy, the actor's name is not Don Michael Paul.
Mm.
He wrote uh, Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
Whoa, no way.
And the craziest thing, he wrote and directed, I believe, I think he not just directed, Tremors 5 and the upcoming, which comes out in May, Tremors 6.
Jesus.
There's a Tremors 6, and it's where they go to like the North Pole and battle Tremors in the ice. The
Oh.
graboids in the ice.
Is
And
Michael Gross going to be in it?
yes!
Of course he is.
Yes! And his son from the fifth movie, Jamie Kennedy. I was like, oh no. Because the fifth movie, it took place in South Africa.
Yeah.
And it was like, and so this was taking place. It's like they're going all over the place. Eventually, it's going to go to Mars, and they're going to find out the graboids are on Mars.
Meanwhile, they'll find Kevin Bacon. They're just going to try and find him some way.
They were talking about trying to get Kevin Bacon and like Fred Ward back.
Yeah.
Because like they're it ain't like they got oh no, we're too high crust.
Fred Ward maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's like but I think that'd be kind of cool. Like because they already did Trimmer. They did Tremors 3, Back to Perfection. Tremors. Okay, yeah, Tremors. Tremors 2. That's the one in Mexico with the Shriekers.
Yes.
The one, and then they had Tremors 3, Back to Perfection. That's the one with the ass blasters, Shriekers, and Graboids and all that. They had Tremors 4, which was a prequel, takes place in the Old West, which it's not as bad as you might think. It's not that great either, but whatever. Then they had Tremors 5 in South Africa, Tremors 6 in the North Pole. So what is it? The next one's going to be Tremors in New York or on Mars.
Tremors take Manhattan.
They kick the boombox.
They kick a boombox over. Yeah.
That movie, that right there was that was bait and switch.
Oh yeah.
10 minutes in New York, like what the fuck, like you couldn't film Toronto as New York. Like that's the thing. Everybody else does. You can do Montreal, Toronto, hell, Vancouver. You just film the back alleys and stuff, and then like one or two shots of like New York streets. You could have faked it, like they're going back alleys to back alleys or something. Like whatever. You could have done something, but they
done something. Yeah.
Not like it should have been Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason takes a boat. It was like
Jason goes sailing.
Jason goes sailing. The Life Aquatic with Jason Voorhees. But it's like the Kelly Hu, the actress. She was in
Kelly Hu.
Who? Kelly what?
Kelly who?
Kelly
who's on first?
But she was actually in that. She's like 19 at the time or whatever, and she's like had just got like the Miss Hawaii or whatever she was, and she's in there and she's like that's when Jason's like teleporting. He's like the Nightcrawler and he's like teleporting all over the place. It's like how did he get here so quick? But like they just didn't care at that time. Like let's just make another movie. No logic.
Throw logic out the window. Teleport logic. Just get it the fuck away. Yeah.
Look, have you ever seen? Because the sequel talk in a way. Have you ever seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2?
Yes. Yeah.
What did you think of that film?
Well, I mean, the first one I needed a bath after I watched it. I was like, that was disturbing. And I watched it later on. It wasn't like something that I watched as a teenager or a young kid. I watched it in my 20s, and I was like, Jesus, that was something. And then I saw the second one a few years later, and I thought it was fun, but it's not a horror movie. It's just bananas. And if you like Evil Dead 2 or stuff like that, like if you like something that's horror themed but it's got some laughs in it, just completely nonsensical and just like goofy, like then yeah, you'll like Texas Chainsaw 2. I didn't hate it. I never watched the third one, Leatherface, and I didn't the one with the Lincoln guy and Bridget Jones.
Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger.
Yeah.
With his robo legs. You try to
Hey,
shut that
it's
movie down.
Leatherface. All right, all right, all right.
It's
I never.
like
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
no, it's like the regrettable movies. I mean, there's a lot worse movies you could be in. It's like what is
Oh,
that
sure.
that Sylvester Stallone movie, the one of his early films? Like basically, it's like a porno.
Oh,
It's like
yeah, he was literally in a porno, practically. Yeah, exactly. It was just before Rocky, I think. It was just a couple of years before Rocky. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I saw clips of that online. I'm like, oh, jeez.
it's like,
Yo,
hey, I'll get underneath this coffee table. Hearts, asses on fire.
Hey
Oh,
baby, hey baby, we're gonna go over the top, all right? Okay, hold on. Oh, oh.
oh my god! It's like that's one of those things. Like with these actors, I mean, they do these movies, and there's some of them that like they're embarrassed by and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
I think you've seen Ice Pirates, right?
Ice
The
Pirates?
That's the one
It
with
sounds familiar.
it's got Robert Ulrich in it. It's got Angelica Houston, uh, uh, Ron Perlman, a couple other people. It's like it's basically it's a comedy. It's kind of similar. It's like a swashbuckling adventure, but in space.
Okay.
And Robert Ulrich's in it and everything. And in it, I hadn't seen it in like probably I don't know like 15, 20 years. I saw it a couple like a year or two back, and I'm watching it, and it started flashing back because there's a scene where he's like, "Oh, you'll be one of my like servants," and it's like like it's just like, "Oh," it's like he's like sexual servants. He's like, maybe kind of thing. And so it turns out that his machine that castrates him, this like metal claw thing, this metal mouth that's
Jesus.
gonna bite off your dick and balls or whatever. And he's like, ah. And they had this. There's a robot pimp, and the robot pimp's like, "Come on, young blood." You know, it's just so bad. It's bad in a good way. Like it's really over the top, very cartoony.
Hmm.
It's really fun. It's a really fun movie. But I think Angelica Houston said like that's one of the worst things she's ever done. Like, it's fun. It's like a fun movie, and it's
Yeah.
these actors they get so serious because they want to be like, oh, I'm a skilled trained actor. I should not be
Oh,
in this
yeah.
thing. It's like give me a fucking break. It's a movie. It's a job. Just do the job.
You need to get practice. You need to get a paycheck. If you're a working actor and you want to get good, you take whatever you can find, I guess, as long as it's not like a Serbian film. You
Oh
know what I mean?
God.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's you just get over yourself. You know what I mean? I think Matthew McConaughey, if he were to sign an audit, if you were to hold out a copy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or The Next Generation, or whatever it's called, he would probably laugh and sign it and be like, all right, all right, all right, and just like sign it, and you'd be on your day. I don't think a guy like him would be like, well, I'm a classically trained actor. He's just he wouldn't give a shit. He'd be cool. I don't know how Renee Zellweger would feel about it, but
Well, only if you tell anyway, because I think she got a lot of Botox. So
dude,
her face.
I got a funny story. My bosses go to BlizzCon every year, and they flew first class on the way back, and who sat across from them in the next aisle but Renee Zellweger? And they were like, I'm like, oh, well, like, what does she look like? They're like, she looked like somebody that tried to look like Renee Zellweger. It was like, wow, yeah, okay, because like, yeah, she used to be cute, and yeah, not so much anymore. But yeah, it was pretty humorous. He was like, yeah, it was that girl from what was this, Bridget Jones or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, Renee Zellweger, yeah. What does she look like? She looked like someone trying to look like Renee Zellweger. I got another funny story too. Like we're talking about sitting near famous people. I was in LAX once, and I was eating dinner in like one of the restaurants, and who's like the next table over but Tony Todd, Candyman,
Oh
Tony
yeah.
Todd. And I was like, holy shit, and me and the guy I was with, it was a work thing. We were out there for work. And I'm like, hey, that's Tony Todd. And he's like, who? I'm like, Candyman. And he was like, what's Candyman? I'm like, so I had to go and explain to him what the fuck Candyman is while he's sitting like 3 feet away.
Jesus Christ! You know he's hearing this. You know
He
he's
probably
hearing.
is. I don't give a shit. It was like, it was like, yeah, he was in what was it? He was
He
in
was in The Rock. He
The
was in
Rock.
the
I was just like, yeah,
he was in
The
the
Rock.
remake, the really
The
good
Crow.
remake of Night of the Living Dead.
Yes, yeah. He was he was like the main guy in that. Yeah.
Yep.
The Tom Savini one. He was in The Crow. He's been
Yep.
in a million things. And so I'm trying to explain, and then he stood up to pay his check, not to kick our ass, but he stood up and to leave. He's a tall dude. He's a big guy.
It's
He was
like
a lot
6'4", 6'5", yeah.
He was a lot taller than I thought. Because they make Tom Cruise look like he's 6'8". So I don't know, like I don't understand. Like it's movie magic. But then he stood up. I was like, holy shit, he's a big guy. And then he was wearing like a fedora. He looked cool as shit. I wanted to like go over and bug him, but you can't. You really can't. I did it once with my pal Bill Sadler. I did it. My good friend Bill Sadler.
Bill, no, it's like like, where's Bill? Where's Bill?
Where's Bill? Yeah, hi, my name's Bill. Remember that old Opie and Anthony bit?
Oh my God, yes. Oh dear Jesus. It's like I'm. That's one thing. Like I don't want to be like. It's like I'd acknowledge it, get it out of the way. How you doing? Have a great day, that kind of thing. Like I'm not gonna be like like. So, what is the favorite thing you ever done?
Oh yeah.
Like that kind of.
Well, the thing, yeah, it was a little different because I was literally sitting right across. It's like picture yourself at like a picnic table, and it's just like there's 3 people across, and on each side, and one of them happens to be an actor in movies. You know what I mean? It's just like at some point in time, it's just like. I don't know. I felt like I made enough eye contact with him to kind of put it out there. I'm like, hey, look, I know who you are, and he was actually really cool, and he sat and talked with us. I didn't. Sometimes you feel like you kind of want to, but it's like I don't. The guy's trying to eat his lunch. The Tony Todd thing. Like, the guy's trying to eat his lunch. I'm not gonna go bother him. And then somebody else might bother him, and then like he's just enjoying his lunch. He's got places to be. I'm not gonna bother the guy. You know what I mean? I want to tell him like, dude, I love Candyman. Like that movie's the shit. I love it. I love you in The Rock. You know what I mean? All this stuff. I wanted to say something, but they're people too, and I can only imagine if I was in that situation, if I was an actor, or a musician, or a comedian, or something like that, and I just want 5 fucking minutes to eat a turkey sandwich before I'm going out the door. And then, people are like, hey, can I get a picture? Can I get an autograph? And you would think that you'd be cool about it. Yeah, no problem. But you never know. Like, I just figured, like, leave people alone. They're people too. Just let them do their thing. I have enough satisfaction in saying, like, hey, look, there he is. I'm sitting next to the Candyman. I didn't say his name 3 times in the mirror. And then he came out, shoved a Reuben sandwich down my throat and killed me. But,
I was trying to think of like actors. I mean, there's not many people like as far as actors go. Like I'm like, oh my God, like that's that person. I mean, well, if they're dead, that'd be a whole other thing. The dead are rising from the grave.
Pat Morita.
Pat Morita. or as Antonio would say, Liz Vassy. It's like,
I should have went Liz Vassy. That would have.
There you go, man. You blew your shot, man.
I fucking dropped the ball on that one. That would have been fucking perfect.
That would have been perfect. It's like, but it's like there's very few actors I revere. That's the thing. Like I have like really no respect for actors. Like they do a job like anybody else, and a lot of them are they're a little too fucking arrogant for my taste. And I was trying to think like what somebody like oh, if you saw Scarlett Johansson, you change your mind. I'm like, no, she fucking can't act. She can't act to save her life. The best movie she was in, she was playing deadpan, which is the only acting mode she has, which was Ghost World.
Ghost World, yeah.
Yeah, Ghost World was great. It's like she was a one-hit wonder. Same thing with Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman was only good movie she was in was Leon, and that was it.
Yeah.
It's like how bad like Scarlett Johansson peaked when she was like 18, and Natalie Portman peaked when she was like 12.
Yeah.
It's like how sad a life is that? It's like, well, she's been in a lot of good things. Name me one. Garden State. You say Garden State, I slap you.
Exactly. What are you, a college girl in 2004? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's yeah. She's I don't know. No,
And,
go ahead and continue.
no, but it's just that those actors, like I don't can't think of really a single one. It's like maybe uh not even Harrison Ford. Like not even like because he's such a grumpy fuck. It's like I'm like oh god. It's like I just like how's it going, and then keep on walking.
I,
It's
I
just
just I just envision him like that scene in Bruno when he's like, and up next on the show is Harrison Ford, and he was like, oh Harrison, he's like, fuck off, and he kept walking. Do you ever see
no, I've
Bruno?
never seen Bruno.
Oh God! So okay, so I mean I'm not really spoiler territory here, but like there's Bruno, Sacha Baron Cohen. He
Yeah.
he wants to shoot a pilot, and he's got like an agent, and then he's got he's showing the producers or whatever this makeshift pilot that he's done, and he keeps telling that like, oh, and coming up soon was going to have an exclusive interview with Harrison Ford. It's like a big name actor, it's like, and coming up was, tune in next for Harrison Ford, and then it cuts to the quote unquote interview, and it's just like Harrison Ford's like outside some restaurant going to his car, and then out pops up Sacha Baron Cohen. He's like, can I ask you? He's like, fuck off, and he just like walks right past him. And then that's not even the joke. The joke is what happens after, and I will save it for when you watch it, because
Okay.
if anybody's already seen this movie, they know what I'm talking about. If you ever decide to see Bruno, right after the Harrison Ford bit is that's that's not even the joke. The joke is what happens next. So
Okay.
I'll
Well,
save I'll save that for you. I'll give you that one little. I'll let you in on that one, spoiler free.
that's like I tried to. Yeah, I couldn't really. I watched. Um. Oh.
Borat.
Borat. I can't remember the name of it, but at the top of my head. But it was parts of it okay. There's the little the song number.
Yeah.
That one's just stuck in my head. I can't like. Somebody said there's an old well over there, and I was like, oh no! And then because of this song pops into my head, and I was like, this, I know it was a filled-in well, and I'm like, I wanted to like that's the main thing I go to. It's like horrible, but it's comedy films and action films and science fiction. I mean, a lot of the stuff today, like I avoided that Blade Runner 2049. I wasn't going to bother with that. That's a movie that did not need to be made, and
Yeah.
a lot of them, it's like just do your own thing. If that movie was called something else, I'd probably give it a shot.
Yeah.
But maybe not, because I hated that movie, The Arrival, that the guy did. The same director.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, I couldn't stand it. It was like this, and I'm not a parent, and I was like, oh, this is just depressing. It's angering. It's badly written. It's like, oh, remember that time that you gave me that you told me something that I didn't know you knew, and you saved us from going to war, and I'm like, because he's like flashing forward in the time and stuff, and it's like, oh fuck you,
Yeah.
some lost level bullshit. But it's like these movies and TV shows. I mean, they don't know what the fuck they're doing for the lot of part. They start something, they don't even have like at the very least with a show like Babylon 5, which had like a plot, had like the main like, oh, this is what's gonna happen season 1, season 2, season 3, 4, 5. That's it.
Yeah.
And Space Nine, they kind of made it up as they went. Something Star Trek stuff, they kind of made it up as they went. It's like, nothing really catastrophic is going to happen. But a lot of these shows, like they'll do like, what's not a part? It's like they'll introduce mysteries and all these questions, and I have no answers at all. And then they'll do well, it wasn't a part of it wasn't the question. It was more of the journey. Like,
Yeah.
fuck you.
Fuck off. I hate that
like,
shit.
Yeah, it's like you can do the story, you can do all that, but with character development as well. But with Lost, it's like flashback. Half the episode was flashback. And I was like, I don't give a fuck about this character. I don't give a fuck. Give me flashbacks for important stuff and keep it brief, But
right,
like have 50 fucking characters, and I got to like. Except they did that was at what was the episode with Billy D. Williams showed up, and they did Razzle Dazzle, which Razzle Dazzle. Oh god, yeah, it was like, and then see, I think it was like one of in the cave with the names. Like one of them was like Hargis and and Sheckler. Like, yeah, you really want Paul Hargis creeping around that island?
Yeah,
really?
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's your kids? I'm sitting in Uncle Paul's lap there.
That's
Sure,
disturbing,
I
dude.
do.
That's
Uh,
disturbing.
hey, Larry, you're welcome.
Oh no, don't do that,
Just,
please.
just, just bring some happiness to the show.
Oh my god, don't do this. I got the fucking. My arms are all like goose pimpled out. They're creeping me out, man. What the fuck?
hey, how about we watch that movie, Raiders of the? No, it's the one with the little Chinese kid. That's my favorite one. That's the one you know when they go to India and all those kids with no clothes on. I love that
Oh
one.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, sure. Just don't mind me. I'm in the corner being nice and quiet.
Oh dear God!
Sorry,
You're too good. You're too good, man. You're too
I
good.
hope I hope hope anyone else gets this reference because
Nope, you're
otherwise it's
just a
just gonna
creep.
be all right.
He's a creep, ladies and gentlemen. He's a creep. Anybody watching this a month from now, he's just
Sure,
a creep.
yeah. I'm just a creep. That's lies. That's all lies.
Is everybody? I was joking around. I was like, the whole. It's like everybody's up there. They're a damn comedian, or if they're not a comedian, they work. Like, dude, you're funnier than most of these fucking comedians on Twitter.
I don't know. Well, I don't know about that. My Twitter jokes aren't that good, so I don't do them anymore. I just vent on Twitter now. I usually just tweet other people's jokes that I find funny, or something that somebody says. I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. I don't really have much. I used to joke around on Twitter a lot, but I don't know. I find myself when I'm on Twitter, I just get into bad mood. That's kind of why like the name is Grumpy Pete, because I think that's like when I got on Twitter and it was like, man, everybody sucks. You know what I mean? And which is funny too, because you and I met through Twitter. Like
Yep.
you and I started talking through Twitter, and it was just like every once in a while there's like a sane voice that's just like, oh, okay.
Well, I wouldn't go that far for myself. So.
but it's just like it makes you think. It's like, oh, maybe not everybody's a shithead, and you know
Yeah,
what I mean.
yeah.
So it's you know, but that's part of the reason why I went with the name Grumpy Pete when I went on Twitter, is just because it's just like, man, you get on there and 5 minutes later you're just like, oh fuck, everything sucks, and it makes me feel like I'm like 40 years older than I am. You know what I mean? I just
Yeah.
like it like, oh man, back in my day we weren't such pussies. You know what I mean? It's just like I could just go on tirades and just like after half the shit that I see people post, seriously, not even a goof. It's not like The Onion, and it's just like you read it and you're like, wow, that's somebody's actual thought. That nonsense, this drivel is what's people like actually believe, and it's just like, and again, I don't have all the answers. I'm a shithead, but at least like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's just Twitter's a funny place, man. That's all I got to say about that. It's a very interesting place to spend time.
Well, I've been lucky enough to meet some interesting folks from there, like you, and there's a bunch of other people I've met through Twitter. I found out through Twitter, and met them in person as well. Like I had a friend of mine and his wife. They came. They're, hey, how's North Carolina beaches? And I told them like there's these places are more like if you want the kind of the nightlife scene. But if you want like that's that one. If you want the higher up, the upper end, upper echelon stuff, that's this one. If you want the one where it's kind of laid back, it's a little bit further drive, but you don't have to worry about a lot of foot traffic. You can kind of have like kind of place to yourself for the most part. One end of the island, you got condos and like one of those kind of condo places, or you can rent a house, whether on the inlet or the ocean side. And so you got options, but you have to. It's like a small town, but on the beach. And he's like, okay. And they came down, they loved it. They didn't know if they'd love it, so they only got like a few days. And like, we wish we could stay for a month.
Yeah.
He's like, we're not used to being so not the food's so good and the weather's nice. And I'm like, hey, I'm glad you liked it. But it's like I met a lot of people, and a lot of like-minded people. Some people I don't always agree with, but civilized, rational people for the most part.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, just recently I having to go through, and it's like a garden. You get a bunch of snakes in your garden, or a bunch of critters are eating up your shit, just making a mess of things. If you don't get rid of them, it's your fault.
Right.
And there was a few people just causing nothing but drama and trouble, and it's like they're trying to spread the misery. And it's like I don't like life is too fucking short for that shit. So it's like I cleared them out, and I'm like, damn, thanks. Just kind of like the sun came out, and the birds are chirping. Everything's nice and wonderful.
It's
It's
it's funny you bring that up because I feel as though like a lot of people that are like the activist type or like the kind of like they want to yell the loudest. They're so unhappy and they just want other people to be just as unhappy as they are. I'll give you a quick example. A buddy of mine has a daughter who's a lesbian,
mhm.
and so she's got an aunt that's on like the mother's side or whatever, right? The like the my buddy's divorced, and his the mother of his daughter, it's like her sister. So she's kind of like a far left progressive,
Mhm.
and the daughter's kind of she's I would say she's a liberal, but I don't think she's a progressive far left ideological, you know, person. You know what I mean? She's just kind of like whatever. Like you know, she doesn't like Trump, but she doesn't hate him either. I guess you know. So long story short, this aunt comes up and she's like, you know, basically telling her that she's oppressed, that she should be reading this author, and that she needs to stand up for herself, and that all this stuff, and that like basically telling her that like, oh no, you're in danger and you're oppressed and you should stand. She's like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
No one gives me shit. I walk around with my girlfriend and no one bats an eye. No one gives me shit. I don't have any less rights or any less. And that's just her. I mean, other people may feel different, but she's trying to tell me that I'm like this marginalized, lesser person that I need to stand up for myself to make myself. She's like, I'm fine. I'm like, I heard the story. I was like, wow, like it just makes me feel like this lady is just so just broken that she wants everybody to be as broken as she is. So she has more broken people to be around, I guess. I don't get it. I'm much more of the live and let live. I mean, if you don't feel the same way I do, that's fine. You can call me an asshole. I don't care. I've been called an asshole on Twitter, but I don't care. It's not. You know, I actually privatized my. I put the little protected thing on my account just because I got DM'd once by this asshole, and it creeped me out, and I was like, all right, you know what? That's if maybe I should you know, lock it up and just make sure that the people that I follow and that follow me are the only people. Well, the people that follow me are the only people that are reading my shit. And
You know,
it's
you
not
can
like
only
I'm putting anything weird out there. It's just like it was just like one instance. It was like, you know, I don't need this in my life, and so you're blocked, and I'm gonna lock this up now so that that doesn't happen again.
well, you can actually turn that on Twitter. You can actually turn it where you can only get DMs from people you follow.
Yeah,
So yeah, you
yeah,
can like
but even
better
still,
safe
like
than sorry.
well,
Yeah.
that's my point. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, and I've got you know more than myself to think about, so it's like you know, I was just like, yeah, that was yeah, maybe I'll you know, because again, even if they can reach you on like without you read some of the tweets that people send. You know, each other that's pretty threatening, pretty vile, disgusting shit, and if they don't want to threaten you on or not even a threat, but say something that's a little kind of off-putting in a DM. The people just so that crazy that they'll put it out just so anybody can read it because that's just how nutty they are. So it's like I don't know. I don't need any of that shit. Um, but yeah. So that's kind of you know. I don't know where I was going with that, but
No, no, it's fine. It's like that.
I
Right?
trailed off and I forgot where I was going.
You went on a little rant, but that's fine. It's like, but I understand that fully because you've got a lot of these people that like I'm not. I don't. I talk to interesting people. You know, I've done this. I've done these streams. I doesn't. I don't. It doesn't matter who the person is, as long as they're interesting, to talk to, and everything like that. I have a good time. And I've talked to people, and like, if you want to break it down, it's like, well, who have you talked to? So was it a bunch of white guys? I'm like, no, they're not. It's been. I've talked to black women. I've talked to Hispanic dudes, black dudes. You know, guys from Mexico. I mean, I've talked to. It doesn't matter. It
It's
like as long as
people,
people,
just people.
interesting people.
Right.
You know, I've
Doesn't
talked to
matter what they look like or where they're from or how they
yeah,
talk. It's just people.
but
People are people no matter where you go.
exactly. Though I will say, like it's to separate who they are and what they happen to be. It's hard to do that because that does
Mm.
shape your life. It's like, if you're a big gun nut, you love your, you could tell me about every little detail about a gun. There you go, car head, gear head, whatever you call it,
Sure.
that kind of thing. It's like that'll shape who you are, and that's
Right.
fine. That's who you are. But it's just interesting to talk to people, and there's a lot of folks like you're saying, like this girl is like, I'm not oppressed, I'm not like fearing for my life, I'm just a person.
Mm.
But then because I have a feeling that lesbian, she's probably not one of the flaunting, like, look at me, I'm, like, she's just a normal person.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Where
and that's it. Exactly. She just happens to be gay,
it's a
but it's
person who
not
happens to be
like
gay instead of a gay person. It's that kind of thing. It's the
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or like someone that, like you said, like a gun nut. Somebody that yeah, somebody that owns a gun as opposed to someone that like is at the range all the time and I have a million guns. Or somebody that's like, I read comics, but that's just like comics is like, obsessed with it. You know what I mean? It consumes them to the point that that's their identity. You know what I mean? Most normal people, like if you're gay, that's just a part of who you are. That's not who you are. You're just again, it's just people. You know what I mean? People come in all shapes and sizes. Everybody's different, but it's differentiating the people that make their either their like sexuality define them or their ideology define them or shit like that. To me, those people are not interesting at all
no,
because
it's
because they're one-dimensional people. Like, I am this and I am that. I'm like, no, you're much more than that. You're just focusing on this. Maybe you're not more than that. Maybe literally that is
you
all you
can
are,
be
and
more
that's
than that, but you choose
you
not to.
can, yeah. And it's such life is so much more than that. Like, again, like I would much rather be with people that are just like, I don't care if people are gay or that they're black or that they're white or that they're handicapped or whatever. It's just like, are you a cool person? Are you worth talking to? Even if I disagree with you on politics or religion or whatever, none of that really matters if you're just like a person, if you're just a regular normal. And I'm finding that like Twitter is filled with like broken one-dimensional people, and it's
It
just
is.
it really is.
It can be for the most part. That's why you gotta just be like, that's it. You kind of, like I said, it's like a garden. You got to tend it properly. You got to maintain it. You can't just, like, oh, okay, I'll get as many followers as possible. Oh, I'll follow for a follow, that kind of thing. And you get these people who end up in your timeline. They're fucking psychotic.
Oh yeah.
They're literally off the rockers, and I'm like,
Like,
ah, God.
and then you kind of, and then some people just like, and the age of Trump, and I mean, like, I get it. Like, people, you know, I have my issues. I mean, not to get all political, but there's like I have my issues with the guy. Like, but you're supposed to have issues with the politician. No politician is going to do exactly what you want them to do. You know what I
No,
mean? You might vote for them because there's some policies that you should vote for people based on the policies that they're trying to enforce or their agenda that they're trying to put forth, not like what they did or who they fucked or what it's that nonsense. I mean, that's just, I mean, what are you going to do when you get in an office, but and there's some things about Trump that I like. There's some things about him that I don't like, but but people just go fucking off on it, like one way or the other. It's either the guy can do no wrong or the guy can do no right, and there's very few like voices out there that it's just like, oh, he fucked this up, but oh, he did this that was cool, but then like, oh, I wish he didn't do this. The I mean, I don't want to say the center, but rational people that it's just like, I mean, the guy could cure cancer and he's like, he's a fucking asshole, and or
yeah,
like,
exactly. It's like
and
there's
it's just
nothing.
like,
There's
right.
no rational. It is like this thing. Like, rationality in this world seems like we taking a back seat or taking to the woodshed and just beaten to a pulp.
Oh, they took rationality out in the back of the shed with Old Yeller and just put it out of its misery. It's bad. It's really bad. I just and Twitter is kind of again, it's a place where everybody has a voice. You know what I mean? And what's scary is that everybody has a voice, and no one. excuse me, no one can. There's very little criticism. Like, you could be like, oh, I hear what you're saying, but how about this? Well, you're a fucking asshole and blocked or whatever. It's just like, whoa, like, all right, it's I don't know, it's kind of a nutty time, and like, I'm not on Facebook. I could give a shit about Facebook. I mean, I signed up for Twitter just as a kind of, you know, on a whim. I was just like, oh, I knew I have a bunch of friends that were on it, and they would tell me like, oh, I followed this comedian, or followed this team, the sports team, or whatever. And I was like, okay, it is a good way to get information. I'll give you that. Like, if you're, you know, say you like watching the NFL draft or something like that. Sometimes the pick comes in on Twitter before it's announced on TV. That shit, like, that's kind of fun. Or if you follow a comedian, they'll like tweet a joke, and it's just like, oh, that's cool. Or you hear like stories about, like, I like uplifting stories about, like, not to sound sappy, but it's just like, say like a kid with cancer or something, and something good happens to them, or like,
Hmm.
it's just like, you need shit like that in your day to kind of like, oh, well, that, the universe is, all right sometimes. So it's like, I joined for those reasons, but then there's a lot of just bullshit out there. And again, like you said, it's important to kind of weed the garden, and pull out the fucking shitty dandelions so the fucking roses can grow. You know what I mean? And you need to do that. And what I ended up doing is I built a wall. I built I built a wall around my Twitter account. It's big, you know. So I just kind of.
It's gonna be huge. You know,
It's
yeah.
gonna be huge. Let me tell you, Larry, I think you're doing a phenomenal job here on Holding Court. Let me tell you, my people tell me it's the #1 show on YouTube.
Jesus. But no, like, and you're right.
Phenomenal job.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have POTUS on the screen. But
Did you
no,
watch?
it's like,
Did you watch 60 Minutes? No, neither did I. I could be bothered. Stormy Daniels, fucker. I actually didn't watch it. Like, somebody had asked me, like, "Oh, you gonna watch that tonight?" I'm like, "No." And
why
they're
give
like,
why give
"Why?"
why give it the time of the day? You know, like
But
that
it's
kind of
just
thing.
like, yeah, I just like, you know what?
They're pulling out all their stops. It's like, oh, well, they didn't go this hard after Bill Clinton. You know,
Well,
like that's
they did and they didn't.
well, not
That was pretty
it.
salacious. I remember
It
that being
was,
like the
but
Ken
this is
Starr
like,
thing, and that was bananas.
but this is,
It's
and
a little different because, like, yeah. So is it shitty that he did it? That he cheated on his wife with a porn star allegedly? Yeah, I would say so. That's not really morally a nice thing to do. Does it affect his policies that he's doing? Like, does it affect like the job that he's doing as president? Not really. You know what I mean? Like you said, Clinton, JFK, there was all stories. You know what I mean? And allegedly they were doing the things that they were doing. So I don't know. This just, to me, it's just another one in a long list of that type of shit. And
yeah, same
I'm
shit,
I'm
different day.
exactly. It's same shit, different year. It's different decade. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? And I don't know. I just, to me, it's just salaciousness for the sake of salaciousness. It's just like, was it a good thing that he allegedly did? No. But am I going to dwell on it, obsess about it? No, I don't. I've got more important things to do with my time. The thing of it is, no matter who is in office, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican, I'd like for them to do a good job. That's like, I don't, you know what I mean? I want them to not fuck up. I want them to do the best job that they can to put forth, like, whether it's, like, either side, like, you know what I mean? And here's the other thing too, is people get all up in arms about that shit. When you wake up in the morning, is your day any different than it was when Obama was in office, or the Clintons in office, or when George W. was in office? No, you wake up, you go to work, you eat, you shit, you go to bed. It's the same shit every day. And unfortunately, that's the reality. Your taxes may go up, they may go down. Um, you know what I mean? Like, there might be something happen periodically, but for the most part, life goes on. The days just kind of roll, and it's essentially the same shit, different day for most people.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when Trump got in office and people were fucking going bananas, it's just like, oh
Oh, that
man,
was the
he's gonna do
funniest
the,
thing. That was the
oh man,
funniest thing. Because I went to sleep that night and I was like,
oh I
yeah,
stayed up.
it's like I'm like, yeah, he's not gonna win. I woke up like it was like I wasn't like rooting for him, but I was like, yeah, there's no chance in hell.
Sure.
Every corporation, every actor, everybody. Because I was out in Denver and on the interstate on the way when I was out in Denver back in June of 2016, on the way
Hmm.
back on the way to the airport, uh, there was these signs up like these like big ass banners. They're like pro Hillary banners and all this and that. There's like
Mm.
a bunch of signs. Like you wouldn't see no Trump sign. I didn't see a single one.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, whatever. And like yeah, there's no chance. Like ever, and like the fix was in.
Yeah.
They fucked over Bernie. Fuck him. He was a damn communist. So screw him. That fucking Sandinistas, old fuck with his like everybody needs free healthcare and free education. Don't
The
talk
top
about
1%, the top 1/10 of 1% needs to pay their fair share, while me in my four houses in my
my beach house and
in my
all this shit. Like
right.
driving
Like, come
like
on.
driving fancy cars and shit. Like if he was
Tell
driving
me another story, Uncle Bernie. Come on.
yeah, you
Yeah.
fucking communist piece of shit. The same people riding the limousines, eating the caviar where everybody else is on bread lines and
Yeah.
praying. And they're on the bread lines wishing for blue jeans and Bruce Springsteen.
Exactly.
It's like, but that's the
Shit,
thing.
I'll
Like,
take David Hasselhoff. Just give me something.
I'm looking for freedom. But that's the thing. It's like these people, like they'll they're out of the
But
damn
yeah,
mouth.
like
Oh
yeah,
God,
like what you were
next
saying, like the fix was in and all the signs and everything, and then
and
you
then
went to
like,
bed.
I
Yeah.
go to sleep and I wake up and the first thing I see on Twitter, the first fucking thing, it was like hash. There's the first thing on top was like what Trump, and then that image of like that image of the
Hmm.
people at the and the campaign office, the Clinton campaign office, with the
Right.
tears streaming down, and I'm like,
Yeah.
like tears of joy. I'm like,
But yeah.
I was like, oh my god, he won. How did he
Yeah.
win?
I,
It's
I,
like,
I, I remember I stayed up and watched. It's one of these moments which is like when you look back, you're like, where were you when Trump got inaugurated? Well, not inaugurated, but elected.
elected. Yeah.
And so I remember I stayed up and watched it, and I was like, all right, because I've watched every presidential election that I voted in, and I go back to Clinton Dole.
Hmm.
Clinton Dole in '96. That's as far as back as I go. So, so I stayed up and I was watching it, and I'm like, all right, well, is he gonna pick up Florida? Because Florida's pretty important. Holy shit, he just picked up Florida. Is he gonna pick up? Oh shit, And there's like the middle of the country where you kind of figured, okay, yeah, he's getting Nebraska, he's getting Iowa, he's getting all these states. Okay, but there were only like 3, 2, 4. You know what I mean? It's nothing like Hillary got the two big ones. You know what I mean? New York and California. But then like that was about it. And I'm like, wow, she's gonna really have to win like 3 states, and even in order to get close. I'm like, holy shit, he's gonna fucking pull this out. I again, like, I didn't think that was gonna happen because again, like, you're going off the polls, and those were. Oh, it's she's got a 99.9% of winning, and it's just it was just ridiculous. And then I remember watching like CNN, and they were going to like this is how desperate they were. They were going to like counties in like states like where she was winning, and I'm like, so you're not going by the state itself, you're just going to like, oh well, in like East Jackass County, fucking of this, whatever. Like, oh, she's projected to win this. I'm like, all right, you're going by counties, and then I'm watching like the Associated Press, which I was going on online to watch it because the cable news stations are pretty bullshit because they're in it for the ratings so that they won't announce a state until after like 3 commercial breaks, so just to get you to tune in to watch more. So like I'm going on whether it's Twitter or online, and I was like, oh wow, like they won this state, and they're still not giving it to Trump, or there's like they've got Hillary ahead just for whatever reason, even though Trump won like 3 states. It was just bananas. This election was just fucking weird. But yeah, I remember I stayed up and watched it, and then fucking Donnie comes out, is fucking, sorry to keep you waiting, complicated business, and I'm like, I can't fucking believe that this shit just happened. And you know what I was watching too was the Cumia Network. I was watching the Anthony Cumia show.
Mhm.
I was watching a little bit of that, and those guys were going fucking bananas. It was like, he fucking won Florida. He fucking won it. Oh, the fuck that bitch. And they were going bananas. And I was just tuning in once in a while to see what those guys were saying, because that's just a fucking trip in and of itself. But I was just like, wow, he's gonna fucking do it. And I was glad that I stayed up and watched it, and as opposed to just, I can only imagine the people that just like, hey, I went and voted at 7:30. I'm gonna go to bed because I gotta tend to my 18 cats in the morning, and then they wake up and they fucking see the Trump one and just fucking, what the fuck? Because they just thought that Hillary had it in the bag. That was. I wish I was a fly on the wall of some New York fucking shitty apartment, or Portland, Oregon, or something like that.
Oh my god, it's like that Star Wars. It's like the whole million voices cried out, and then nothing.
It was
It's like
Alderaan all over again.
Alderaan. It's like, but it's so funny to see how it happened. It's like and for some, it kind of was a wake up call. It's like, what the fuck am I like?
Sure,
like,
yeah.
It's like there's some of like the people that I would not normally agree with, like they kind of not coming over to my side, but like kind of like
at least coming to perspective.
It was a shock to the system, that perspective, because it's like, oh, my candidate's gonna win and this and that. It's like you realize like these politicians, it doesn't matter who they are, they don't give a fuck about you.
That is true. That is true. You look at Congress, man.
Oh God, yeah, they're just they're there for themselves.
That's it. Life. Term limits. I've been screaming this. Term limits.
Four terms. 4 terms for each person. You get 4 times, or maybe 3 times. 3 times the charm. Third time's the charm. That's the last time you get in, and you out of there, sucker. Unless you're running for president.
Right.
But and that right there, it's like nope. Like you could do like what? Let's say what? 2 terms as a senator, and then let's say you do 4 terms as a congressman, because he does it shorter terms. So that right there, so it's not the 4 years, but but the idea is like once they get in, they gotta keep on, they got to keep on hustling for more money, more power, and all that, and become a lobbyist afterwards, make more money after they leave with their connections. Since they're not going there to serve the people, they're going there to serve themselves.
They serve their interests. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Back in the day where it was like you had some farmers, you had businessmen, you actually had people, normal people. Yeah. And honestly, one of my biggest things, no one in the United States government, that includes civil servants, that includes whether it be bureaucrats, elected officials, cabinet members, it doesn't matter. Like, oh, well, he's been my friend for my entire life. He's going to work with me in my cabinet. No, fuck him. If you're dual citizenship, I don't care if it's with fucking Canada. If you're a Canadian U.S. citizen, no, you got to be America 100%, because we don't trust your ass. Fuck you. I don't trust.
Hey man, what are you talking about there, eh? Me and Gordo over there, you gonna talk shit about us there, hoser? That's fucked up. I'm gonna get Justin Trudeau down there to fucking kick your ass, eh?
What costume is he going to be wearing?
I got a hockey stick, bro. I got a hockey stick, hoser.
What costume is he going to be wearing?
Exactly. He's gonna. Exactly.
He's gonna go through his wardrobe. Fucking high school drama department wardrobe.
He's dressed like a fucking geisha, man. I don't know.
Oh no, Justin Trudeau is gonna try to suck you off.
Oh, what do they call that? Cultural appropriation there, eh? Listen, Gordo, I don't know, man.
Justin's asking for the Scotch tape to tape back his eyes.
I don't know, man. I think he looks like Buffalo Bill there, eh? Tuck his wiener in between his legs. I don't know. He's talking about he fuck himself. I don't know. It's kind of a weird guy.
Oh my god! But that's what's so scary about these people, that they have this influential power and they're unchecked.
Yeah.
And we are. I know we got spies within the U.S. government. We do spying ourselves. But I'm pretty sure the Russians aren't letting some fucking half American dual citizenship person work for them. It's like, fuck these people. Like, I don't care what country they are. I'm like, fuck them. If you ain't American 100%, you ain't gonna be in charge. Fuck you.
Well, it was kind of interesting with the Arnold thing back in California when he became governor. You know what I mean? It was just
Yeah,
like, and I got to give him credit because it's just like, that Bill Burr bit where he's talking about like, it's like,
great man.
yeah,
Great.
he's living the dream. He's a great man. Look what he accomplished. But you know what the thing it is? He's not wrong. You know what I mean? The guy can barely speak English. He comes over. He's a fucking bodybuilder. He yeah. I'm not going to get into the whole bit, but it just proves to you that like the guy just kept going. He kept chugging, and he ended up being he became governor of California, and as an actor that could barely like eyeballs
California.
California. I'm I'm the governor. I remember he said that. I was like, ugh, oh Jesus. But I'm going to lower your taxes. Like I'm going to, I'm going to put some steam into your taxes, Bennett. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It was a terrible joke. But anyways, I, I was trying to go somewhere with it, but I wasn't going anywhere. But the thing of it is like, yeah, he's a dual citizenship guy. I mean, he came from another country, but that's part of like the American experiment that like people can come here and then they can achieve like hold public office and like I hear what you're saying, but like but I just think that like when Trump was talking about like draining the swamp,
That's a damn
that
joke. That
well,
ain't gonna happen.
I read a funny not a funny but a very interesting thread on Twitter. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It was talking about how Trump got the funding for the wall. Him and Paul Ryan essentially put it in the like that omnibus bill.
Oh, the one that's going to strip Fourth Amendment rights? Yeah, that's search the
Yay!
seizures. Oh, we don't need those.
Sure. Yeah, don't get my computer. No. So, no, I was just getting it checked out. I got a virus in it. So, anyways,
My buddy Gary. I can't do Uncle Paul, but Gary Glitter told me about this place.
yeah, sure, I got it from Pete Townsend. Yeah,
uh,
he said he didn't need it no more. Yeah, it's all these kind of pictures on it. Yeah, they're wonderful pictures. Don't take my computer away. So, anyways,
oh my God.
God, yeah, it's terrible, right? So, yeah, shit. Where was I going with that? I had
Oh, with the
something.
omnibus bill, getting
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
getting out of
So
there.
apparently this is what I've read, and again it is on Twitter. But like Trump and Paul Ryan put the budget for the wall in with the defense, the Pentagon, uh, uh, like the defense package.
Mm-hmm.
So they're basically calling the wall national security, and Trump and Paul Ryan dumped a lot more money in this package into the Pentagon funding, and so you wonder where that money's going to go. And so the thought is, or the prevailing belief is that Trump is going to get the wall built with the funds from the omnibus package that were put in towards the Pentagon, and that it's all legal because Congress signed off on it, the president signed off on it. It's not rinky dink, like he's not, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
all, I guess, 100% legal. And so it's I don't know. I haven't read enough about it, and trust me, I'm not smart enough
And it's like 2,000 pages too, so it's like,
well, and there was a lot of shit in that like I was reading up on some of the stuff. Again, I'm just an asshole. They're not going to give me the bill to read 2,000 pages of it, but I can only imagine all those representatives and senators and God knows who else that did try to read it. But long story short, from the stuff that's been coming out, yeah, there's some good stuff in there and there's some bad stuff in there, and no one likes to see what was it, $1.2 trillion in spending. That's gonna, it's just. I was hoping that Republicans don't tend to. They like to cut taxes and spend money on the military. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we'll cut all this other bullshit, but we want a military spending, and we'll whatever other fat we can trim in government, we will. And they're more. Whereas when Democrats get in, it's just like, oh, well, we need all these programs, and who's going to pay for it? You are, and it's everybody's taxes go up, and then there's always programs, and there's all this funding for this and funding for that, and the arts and the this and then that, and it's just like, okay, it's how it works. It's just that's just this vicious circle. But I wasn't happy to see, yeah, we got another $1 trillion in spending. But I just thought I read that tonight about how he snuck the funding for the wall in with the Department of or the Pentagon spending, and I'll send you the link. It was pretty interesting, and people are losing their minds over it, but because he's looks like he's going to get his wall. But I don't know. Who knows? But
well, that's so funny about it with the whole wall thing. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're going to waste money on this wall." Like we we spent all that time and effort to get the Berlin Wall taken down. I'm like, do y'all know what fucking history is? Do you
right,
know why
exactly.
the Berlin Wall was there? It wasn't there to protect, the Germans from invading Russia.
Keep the people in.
Exactly.
It's a different purpose. Yeah, no, you're exactly right.
When you have a country that, for we fucked up Mexico. We have fucked up Mexico. I'm not gonna say we haven't. They fucked themselves up too, but we didn't help none.
Right.
And the war on drugs is a stupid fucking thing. It's just another way to funnel money. And it's like, at the end of the day, there's certain. Okay, what we should do? We should make certain places kind of like Amsterdam, Detroit. Make that an Amsterdam. You want to go get coke, meth, hookers. You want to revitalize Detroit? Either Delta City it or turn it into Amsterdam.
I could just Delta City it.
Yeah, it's like the future has a silver lining. But it's like you look at RoboCop. That's actually like Delta City's just a good idea.
It really is.
Privatize police. Privatize a city, a completely corporate run city. Everything. It's like every place there's no mom and pop stores. It's like, you know what? Fuck it. Nobody wants to go there. Or sell it to Canada. Either way,
or it just turns into like RoboCop 3 when the Gestapo comes in, just mows down the ghettos and just like it's just like it could go either way. I mean, I wouldn't be a fan of that happening, but I hear what you're saying. It was just like, it's either shitting it off the pot. It's either fix it or just let it decay and just let it, what I don't know. It's I don't know. It's when you see like pictures of Detroit and areas of Philadelphia and just like these places where they're like, man, there was so much positivity and so much promise in those
creativity that came out of there, the cars, the ships that came out of Philadelphia and everything. Yeah,
and now it's just slums and ghost towns and just like, and no one wants to do anything with it. It's
bears showing up in Detroit, like
right.
wandering in. Yeah.
It's bananas, and it's just like it's sad to see because it's just like, what was so important to the manufacturing in the country, and it's just all gone, and it's probably never coming back. And it's just and again, like, I know the focus nowadays is on tech, but I mean, really, when is that bubble gonna burst? You know what I mean? It's only a matter of time. I don't know. That's a story for another day.
Yeah, it's like you look at some of these people, you look at the way these cities are run, and you look at Chicago, which is like the strictest gun laws, and one of the strictest gun laws in America. I think the strictest city, major American city with gun laws.
Mm.
And all the people that get shot, all the people that get hurt, the robberies, God knows the rapes and everything like that. And the idea is, like, let's strip people away of their Second Amendment rights, because for safety reasons, because safety is more important than your freedoms.
Mm.
And look how well that's worked out. You
right.
got innocent people that are not able to buy firearms legally because they're like, if they do that and they get, they defend themselves, they're going to jail for a firearms violation, even though it was self-defense. So they're okay with killing the person, but they're gonna be going to jail for firearms charges, which is federal. as well as state. So you got got a lot of, it depends on what charges and everything. That's if they file the charges. And you're looking at a lot of problems with this whole, well, let's get rid of the guns. Let's get rid of that. Like, look how well that's worked out, in
Right.
the past. It's like every population's given up their firearms, except for Australia. Talking about, and but they really didn't have that many to begin with. They were not a America is our, and we talked about. I think we talked about this before, but the my problem with America is we don't embrace our gun culture appropriately. It's like everybody. It's like Predator 2. Everybody on the train has a gun. That's how.
Mm.
That's how. Like, I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's like, yes, let's say 5 out of those 100 might do something horrific with it, but the other 95 won't let that happen.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like when you look at the statistics of how many people own guns and how many guns they own. I mean, the most of it is in the middle of the country, and like how many mass shootings are there in the middle of the country? How many major like shooting, either mass shootings or robberies, or you don't really hear much of it in you know Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You know what I mean? It's like it's I think part of it is where like people that own guns, it's part of their, I don't want to say culture, but it's like their way of life. I guess is like they've their grandfather took their dad shooting, and they take their son shooting, and it's like like let's go target shoot, or let's go hunt a deer, or let's like it's this start from an early age, and you learn to respect it, and
Exactly.
and it's like it's a huge responsibility, and but it's something that like if you're introduced to it at an early age, and you kind of like, but people in the middle of the country, that's just how they do it. But then you go to the coasts with it's like you know this, like, what do you mean you took a 8-year-old kid shooting? Oh my god, like how irresponsible of you, and you're just a fucking piece of shit, and this is it's kind of, and then where is the majority of the crime coming from? All the shootings and all that stuff. It's the coasts. It's like or maybe not Illinois, but like Chicago. But like, they're not really addressing. In my opinion, there's been a real downturn of like people being well. Number one, there's a lot of mental health issues that aren't being acknowledged. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Every kid's on a whole laundry list of pills for whatever else, and so that doesn't really help. And then we don't really teach responsibility or value of life, or just like and it's I don't know, there's a lot. I mean, I don't want to
It's
say
not
like
just one thing. That's the thing. It's like
exactly,
you
yeah.
have the pharmaceutical companies that are pushing these pills to doctors, and the doctors are already, they have to worry about getting sued, so they don't want to make as much money as possible, because in case there's a lawsuit, they want to actually have a parachute just in case. So they're pushing pills on people that don't necessarily need them, because gone are the days of the doctors that actually gave a shit, knew who the fuck you were.
Right.
That's a gone thing. A lot of doctors are not even American anymore. A lot of them are Indian, Pakistani. You get like some your Eastern Europeans, or like, and that's the main thing. It's like a lot of them they have to do a certain amount of time here before they go back to their home country, and so a lot of them are like, they're temporary. So and a lot of time you don't even see a doctor, you see a nurse, and and like that's basically how it goes. And so you have the corporations, these pharmaceuticals companies, who buy ads, on MSNBC and CNN and so on. So they're not going to, the news sites, and ABC as well. They're not going to bite the hand that feeds them, because they're barely keeping afloat. If it wasn't for the ad revenue from the drug companies, that ain't going to happen. They go after the firearms companies, because I think was it Colt, or was it Winchester? Sorry, I think it was a Winchester. No, Remington. That one actually, they're going bankrupt up your way, and yeah, because they're because nobody's buying guns. They're buying guns, but the guns have already been manufactured. They're buying them from shops, and like Dick's Sporting Goods, like, oh, we're going to prevent people from buying. We're not going to sell this kind, and we have to be 21. I'm like, hey, good luck. They'll just go to a pawn shop. Okay.
Sure.
You're just driving more like a gun store, and there's a lot here in the South. I mean, you go at one time you can go to a Walmart and buy a AR platform rifle, but they don't have like two or three, so they kind of go quick. So if you didn't get them, you know, you still buy shotguns and bolt action rifles and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you still have parents that don't. They have children, but they don't love their children. It's like children is an accessory.
Oh yeah.
And that's a big thing.
Yes.
It's like when you have like
nobody knows how to parent anymore.
Their parents. You know, these are the people having the kids are raised by parents that they, you know, a lot of the time they're, you know, they were raised by the TV or by the nanny or by preschool. Like the, you know, like, well, we have to go back to work. Like the mother couldn't stay home while the father was at work and take care of the kids and everything like that. And like their fathers didn't give a shit, their mothers didn't give a shit, or like the mothers do like, I'm gonna do a single mother thing. I don't need no man in my life. That bullshit.
Yeah, that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that really works out well for boys and girls. Yeah, for sure. I knew a lot of real good quality people coming out of that kind of background.
Right. Sure.
But it's easier to, instead of addressing all these issues, it's easier to say the gun did it.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's crazy.
It is. It's like you can't, like, the fucking Knight Rider 2000, that TV movie that was about we got rid of all the guns and then the guns make a comeback. Like, oh, how scary that would be. Like, you can't get rid of all the guns. It's a fucking fantasy.
Right.
And like, because the thing about it is, you get rid of guns, you know what's going to happen? The fucking guns we sold down in Mexico and all the Mexico gun trade, there'll be gun runners all throughout America. Yeah. People can make a killing off of that.
Yeah.
A literal killing. but and nobody wants to address that because it's a lot easier, like I said, to point at the, you know, and talk about the people that they're off the rocker, and you don't like, well, you know, it's hard to it's hard to address because you don't want to seem insensitive. It's not my place. A lot of people are apathetic. You see somebody that might be crazy, they got the wide eyes, they're acting weird, and you saw how like the fucking bureaucracies, you know, failed those kids down in Florida, and that
absolutely.
What was that one? The was it Khrushchev? He was like a Russian
Kyle
name.
Kashev.
Yeah. He's like the only one with somewhat common sense. I still think he's probably being manipulated behind the scenes. A lot of all of them are to some degree.
Right.
Like, you know, it can't not be.
But the ones that were at the rally yesterday.
Oh God.
I mean, they're getting pimped out. It's like they're just like, hey, you know,
15 minutes of fame, man.
It's crazy, and the thing of it is too is just like, you want to, as a human, you want to say like, yeah, you know, I feel for you. You know, you went through a tragic thing, and no one should have to go through that. And I can understand how that affects your views on guns. Like, I haven't heard much of the blame put on the shooter. I haven't heard much of the sheriff's department and
the FBI.
They completely screwed the law enforcement agencies that completely screwed the pooch. You know what I mean? That kid should never have. That there was so many opportunities for that to have gone a different way, and I get these kids are pissed, but it's like, all right, well, it's you're focusing on, you're focusing, in my opinion, they're focusing on the wrong thing, and they should be a lot more angry at the sheriff's department than at like the NRA that's that. And then
when's the last time?
But we all kind of know. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
As the NRA, if the NRA actually had one of their members go on a killing spree, they would plaster that. You would never hear the end of it. Nope. But has it ever happened? To my knowledge, no.
To my knowledge, no.
And it's usually the NRA members stopping horrible shit from happening.
Right.
It's these people that they go to shooting ranges on a regular basis. They know how to maintain their firearms. They know how to operate them properly.
They set up courses. The funny thing is like the NRA, you know, love him or hate him, but like
education.
It's education. It's like, you know, and they have courses on how to handle firearms, how to shoot. How to handle situations. It's all about education and information, and they're they're the only major outlet that does that. There's a lot of smaller outlets, but that's like the big one. And yeah, are they a lobby group? Yeah, but they're lobbying for uh, your rights. You know what I mean? Like how many places are like a lobby group for your rights as opposed to their interests? You know, and I guess yes, they do have interests. Let's not be, you know, but it's like they're I don't know. They're literally pointing the gun in the wrong direction as far as I'm concerned. And again, funny. It's funny too because it was like I remember when like ban the NRA, boycott the NRA, and I was like, oh, 5 million people. Like when they were doing all these companies were backing out of their support in the NRA. All these companies were like pulling their um, discounts and shit like that. It was funny. It was like, oh, 5 million people, that's nothing. That's easy to. I'm like, that's just 5 million NRA members. That's nothing compared to the actual people that own guns that aren't NRA members. There's a lot more of those people.
Yeah,
And,
like me, I'm not an NRA member, and I have a few firearms. I wouldn't see how
sure.
many, but
Right.
it's like, but that's the thing. It's like the reason I'm not a part of NRA because I don't have to pay the membership fee.
Sure. And
You know,
that's
that's
probably it's and I guarantee you that that's probably the same reason why a lot of other people aren't members too. It's and it's like, do you like what they're doing? Do you support what they're doing? Yeah, but like shit, I don't want to fucking pay for it. You know what I mean? I'd rather save the money and buy a gun. But it's I think that I just found that that's humorous and like in that guy's mind, it's only 5 million people that they're worried about. No, dude, it's a lot more than that, and you're trying to tell people that they can't have their rights, and it's a complicated issue, but it's one that I don't think is really getting a fair debate because there's one side that's just like, it's all hyperbole and just
emotions. It's all
it's all,
emotions.
yeah, it's all and again, with those kids and I get it to a degree. Some of them, I think. Other ones, I think some of the kids, I understand, and I think there is other ones that I think are just cashing in on their 15 minutes of fame. It might sound shitty, but that's how I feel about it.
This world,
Um,
I've seen and heard and witnessed. I've witnessed some really horrible things. That things like, oh, that wouldn't happen, and oh, that could never happen, and it has.
hmm,
And I'm like, at this, like, mothers pimping out their toddlers. Like, I mean, 2-year old, like 1 year,
hmm,
2-year old in a motel room in Fayetteville, and because the and one day in time, if you were to do that, they would just kill you.
yeah,
But now we got to understand why. It's like, no, you don't let the person live after that.
you,
That
they
is not
literally
a forgivable.
destroyed a life.
You have destroyed a life, and you have caused more. That right there. That's the kind of stuff. It's like when the whole NRA thing is like, they're eroding. The reason they're eroding they want the NRA to go away because if nobody's fighting for those rights, and like I do believe this, I believe that they want, because there are so many anti-gun lobbies out there. There's
Hmm.
very few pro-gun lobbies.
Oh yeah,
Like, and I'm not going to say they're not doing it they're doing it just because they want to protect our rights. No, they want more firearms. They want more choices. They want to
of
be able to,
course,
like,
yeah.
if I had my way, like, somebody said, what did you want? Would you want your own nuke? I'm like, no, but I want my own. Like, I wouldn't want the nuke, but I'd like to have the option to.
I remember
Really?
there was somebody a tweet. Not to cut you off, but I remember reading somebody was like, all these gun Nazis, NRAs, like, oh, they want like tanks and bazookas. I was
You
like,
can actually
I
buy a tank and bazooka.
I was just gonna say, I was like, I don't need a bazooka, but I would fucking love a tank. You know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest with you, I'd fucking love to drive a tank around. Just like, all right, honey, I'll see you at 5. Just like, how's the traffic? Not bad. Just driving over fucking Hyundais and shit. Just, I just that's hilarious. But, but to get to your point, oh, I'm sorry. Where were you? I kind
You
of
can
cut you off.
actually, but that's the thing. It's like if you should buy a fully automatic weapon before, if it's manufactured before 1986, you can actually buy a fully automatic weapon, and there was an ad. I put it up on Twitter like about a month or two back. It was a ad for it was out of somewhere out of Alexandria, Virginia, where you can buy. It was like from the 50s. That was like from the 50s or so, and it was like a lamp made out of like a Winchester single action army or a
Mm.
Colt single action army pistol. It was like a lamp made out of it. But then they'd have other stuff like this little knickknack stuff. They had a PTRS 41 Russian anti tank rifle.
Ooh.
They had these Finnish made. They're basically anti tank cannons. They look like they're mounted to skis, and so you'd sit down and put your feet like on like these kind of stirrups on either side. So when you fire, it's got to lay flat. You can't lay down, but you got to sit down and then pull the trigger. They had machine guns, World War I water cooled machine guns, Maxim machine guns, for like $100 back then, which would be about 600-700 now.
Jesus.
But that right there, you're dealing with fully automatic weapons. Now, granted, there's a lot of maintenance to go into it, but you didn't hear anybody picking up a Maxim machine gun and mowing down, mounted in the back of a pickup truck and mowing people down.
Right.
But I mean, because back then, 90% of the American population was white dudes. So, and now it's not so much. It's like, and a lot of them were Christian for the most part. Even if they weren't Christian, they just kind of carried on the guys. And that's one of those things. It's like I have a thing, like when it comes to religion, a lot of people, they just do it because it's habit. They might not believe in it. It's just habit. But when people start questioning that habit and like where it kind of the society breaks down, you might not like. I used to go to church. I didn't fully. I was like, I don't believe in this because this is like you're going to hell for listening to rock and roll music. I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, whatever. And I was still going because it was a habit. But there's a lot of people like you take them out of that habit and you kind of break down the structure. It's like so they're not getting up in the it is you kind of keeping somebody to task, whether for social reasons, spiritual reasons, keep people on track, and you let people. And freedom, to me, freedom in many ways is a noose. You too much freedom, and you hang yourself because if you have so many choices, you actually do nothing. You look at these kids that have like so much potential, they do nothing with it. They just go into debt and walk around in pajama pants.
Yeah.
And it's just what happens, and it's scary to see people today, and these kids they're given iPads, and they're like, oh well, it's like what happened to coloring books? What happened to sketchbooks? What happened to like kids being kids? Now it's like no, give them iPads. So they're on the internet. They're using the Wi-Fi, watching movies, watching YouTube. Like that's just scary. It's like so you're teaching a kid to be desensitized, but in the other side of it, the devil's advocate side, by not doing that, you're actually making your kids stand out even more. And realize how isolated that kid's going to be when he grows up. It's like, or she grows up, it's like, oh my God, everybody else are on their phones all the time. Like if you're a Luddite, I mean, imagine being a Luddite 15 years from now.
Right.
Like a bunch of cyborgs walking around, and you're like, what are you? What are you, a flesh bag or something? Like some kind of insult. But it's scary. I mean, that's what I think of. It's like that's what I kind of hope. One of those like a solar flares or EM pulses, whatever.
EMP, yeah. I was just gonna say like, right. Right. Well, what I was gonna say was, when you think back about the generations in the past, like in the 30s and the 40s, what did they have to deal with was the World War II, which I don't want another world. Like I'd rather. What I was gonna get to was like kids growing up in a hardship of having to go without something. So I was going to think about like the 30s when you'd have like the aftermath of the Great Depression. You know what I mean? Like there was the country kind of hit rock bottom, and you had to kind of pull yourself back up and have to go without, or have to learn to deal with hardships and strife. And the kids these days, they're growing up in I don't want to say the easiest time that's ever been.
But they have it too easy, though.
They really do. Easy. They really do. Anything that they want is at their fingertips. And they're constantly being told they can be what they want, they can say what they want, they can do what they want. And there's very little ambition nowadays it's just like it's almost entitlement where they're just like, well, I want a car. Like, Dad, when are you gonna buy me a car? I'm like, well, fucking get off your ass and get a job and get one. You know what I mean? Oh, well, fuck that. Like, oh, it's just there's a lot of that shit going on. And if there was like and again, because that I don't want to say like I don't want this to happen, but like I certainly don't want a world war. I don't want any war. Like I don't want that. But I would if there was ever like a great like a recession or another depression where people were like, holy shit, we're fucking we have to where are we going to get our next paycheck from, where are we going to get our next meal from, like real hardships that that's the only way to kind of snap the country or the world or whatever out of this fucking milieu of just kind of like, well, this is it's instant gratification, and everybody's on easy street. Not everybody's on easy street, but it's just it seems like it's easier to get there's the expectation of success is just there's an expectation that things are going to work out and you don't have to do much to get to where you want to get to. And for people like my grandparents and people that had to kind of like, oh shit, where
Bust ass. They had to
right,
bust ass
or
to get
even in the
things done.
80s, like exactly like in the 80s, like my dad was he was a hardworking guy. He worked in a lot of like plants and stuff like that. Not to get anything specific, but like he was working at a plant, and they up and moved to Canada. They moved their whole facilities up to Canada, and he was without a job for a while. And it was just like he was all. I remember he was like, "Buy American." You know what I mean?
Yep.
He just like you know, keep American jobs here, buy American products because that helps you and it helps the guy down the street that's got an American job. Like, buy American. Like, we didn't get a Nintendo. Like, his honest to God, like he didn't want to buy a Nintendo because it was Japanese. It has, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, oh,
VCRs either.
well, exactly right. But everything was made. All your electronics were made in Japan. But it was like that was one of these things where he was just like he had to stick up his ass about buying. It's like I don't want to. Part of it too is like he didn't want me to just sit in front of the TV all day.
Yeah.
Like video games are just going to sit around and like, what, did you get your homework done? Oh no, I've got 2 more levels and I'm finished. You know what I mean? He didn't want that. So he held off as long as he could, and then I eventually. It's funny. There was up north in Providence, Rhode Island. It was Fox 64, and the Fox 64 Kids Club had a contest, and it was like there was a show, The Defenders of Dynatron City. No one remembers this shit.
I don't remember it either.
No one did. It was on for like 2 seconds. Whoopi Goldberg was on it. Speaking of,
Whoa.
to call back to last week with stars that used to be in movies and now on TV. She did a voice on the cartoon for like a couple episodes, I think, if I remember correctly. But long story short, they had a video game tie-in to the show that was only on for like a week. And so Fox 64 Kids Club had a thing. If you mail it in, you could win some Defenders of Dynatron City prizes. And one of them, I think second place, was an NES game. And so my sister and I won. And, like, oh, cool.
You're the only two that entered.
Right, exactly. But no, we won second prize, so I don't know who the fuck won first. But we, like, it was like, I can't imagine anybody sending in for this prize. But it was interesting because the company that made the game wouldn't be out for like another 6 months or something like that. It was still in development. So you had the option of asking for a different game that was made by the same publisher or waiting the 6 months for the game to come in. So what we decided to do was I would put in, and one of the games was Star Wars on NES. And so I
Super Star Wars?
No, Star Wars, the NES.
Oh, the original.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I put in for that, and then my sister got the Defenders of Dynatron City. But what they ended up doing was, like, I got the Star Wars game in the mail, and then like 4 or 5 months later, or even 3 months later, whatever it was, we got 2 copies of Defenders of
Oh
Dynatron City.
shit!
Yeah, yeah. So we got an extra game out
They
of
were gonna send you a crate, but
it. Exactly. Take all of them. No, these fucking the
no one
paperweights.
cares.
No one cares. And I remember playing the game. It was, it was just a side scroller, and you would go into you could probably find it on YouTube. Like, go when you're done watching this, folks. Go watch the Defenders of Dynatron City on NES and see what I had to deal with in my childhood. That was the first game I had, So that and Star Wars. But yeah, so it forced my dad to get an NES because he was just like, "Oh, I can't let these kids not play the games that they want," So we were like the last people in the fucking continent to get an NES. I think it was like 2 years later, the PlayStation came out or some shit.
Dude, I just looked it up on eBay. The cheapest copy I'm seeing right now, out of the box, no box included, was it's like $35. The rest of them are like 50, 60, 70, $100.
No shit. I'm sitting on a gold mine.
Man. You think gold mine?
I got 2 of these sons of bitches up in my attic. Son of a bitch.
Well, that's eBay, so that's what somebody wants for it. Does not mean they'll actually get what they're asking for.
You know it.
But yeah, it's like that right there. It's like, I mean, getting game systems, like me, considering I had people beating up, like I had threat of being beaten up in my own yard at home because these like kids around town, like they would actually come from the other side of the town, the west side of town. They come over to the east side and want to start some shit, and there was like 5 of them. And this is before, like I knew we had a shotgun. I had knives, access to knives, all this other stuff, but I knew I couldn't do that. I couldn't pull a shotgun on them. I can't pull a knife on them. I couldn't even pull a baseball bat on them because I knew that that was wrong. That was even though I would be defending myself, it would like also I knew it would escalate.
Mm.
So I said I would just keep my ass in the house and play video games and watch TV and read comics and draw and all that shit. So that's what I did. Got real fucking fat. And that's another. It's like, but around here there was no opportunities for like me to go out and get a job. Like as far as a kid goes, like I couldn't. There was no paper route. It's like 12, 13 miles from the next town over.
Yeah.
Busy highways with transfer trucks. So it's like Pet Cemetery. It's like I didn't want to end up like Gage, Like, I don't want to be buried
in a pet cemetery.
Yeah, I love that shit. Look at the movie. Good movie. But it's like it was
Pet Cemetery 2. What do you think? What are your thoughts on Pet Cemetery 2?
Clancy Brown, no.
Oh, I know.
It was such a shit movie. It was like
it really was.
It was badly directed, badly shot, badly written, badly acted.
Oh yeah.
Clancy Brown was great in it. I mean, I haven't seen a movie he wasn't great in.
Me too.
But everything else, his stepson, and this guy's a dick. He's like basically saying, "Oh yeah, your dead wife, yeah, fucked her." It's like that kind of thing. He's got that Maine accent, whatever. But it's this, it was badly done. It was a retread. There was like nothing interesting about it. But the worst thing about it, it's like it was directed by the same director who did the first one. It's like, what the fuck happened between the first? And it's like, I'm like, and there's a lot of people that say like there's like female directors can't direct horror and shit. The chick who the woman that directed Pet Cemetery, that was a woman, but the woman who directed, there was 2 women, one that wrote and one directed it. American Psycho. That's right. That's a women. One of the most like often quoted gift. People love that fucking movie, and people forget it was done by a woman. Written and directed.
I forgot that it was done by a woman. That's a great point.
Yeah, and she wanted to get even darker and more fucked up, but they wouldn't let her. it would push like the NC-17. I'm like, fuck, because everybody else is good for it, but the ratings boards and stuff. It's like, don't get on your force. Eat her ass. Don't stare at it. Eat it.
Yeah,
I love it. It's just so fucking. And like the whole sequence that where he's so vain. He's fucking the hookers. And he's like pointing at himself in the mirror, flexing, and all this. So fucked up. It was like Christian Bale's finest hour.
Yeah. Do you like Huey Lewis in the News?
Yeah. Batman kills Joker while Green Goblin investigates. Oh, and Princess Daisy in the movie. Princess Daisy from Super Mario Brothers. Samantha.
Samantha Mathis.
Yes, who was naked in what was it? Pump Up the Volume. She was actually naked in
Really?
that. Yes, I
I
didn't
will
find
have
that
to.
because
I will have to investigate.
yeah, with Christian
My,
Slater.
my go-to Christian Slater. My go-to Christian Slater is Gleaming the Cube, but
Oh God,
that's yeah.
dude, I can't watch that. That was so fucking horrible. I tried
Oh, but
watching that. It's so
yeah,
bad.
that's a movie I grew up on. That was like heavy rotation for me as a kid with Stephen Bauer. Yeah, that was yeah. I remember watching that a
Manolo, hey
ton as a
Manolo,
kid.
from
Yeah, right.
Scarface. Yeah, I was like,
Hey, maybe she's a lesbian.
hey, bitch, lesbian.
Beach,
He's like going to.
lesbian.
You have
Oh
to.
yeah,
You
that's
have
what
to
it was. Lesbian.
yeah, he's like because he goes up to her and does the whole la, 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 like like flicking the
Yeah.
tongue at her. It's like
She's like,
bitch,
fuck off. Yeah,
lesbian. It's like he's like
lesbian.
so pissed at her and everything. Coño! And
Exactly.
like while
Oh,
Tony and Angel Fernandez. Angel Fernandez getting chopped up with a chainsaw. He's like, "Yeah, come here, chick." Like grabbing on her and shit. It's like it's a good fucking movie, Scarface. It's like it's really cheesy, but it's good.
mm.
But
I haven't watched it in forever, but yeah, there's some memorable lines and scenes in that one for sure.
I might yet friend Travis he's in there. He's talking about Gleaming. He's like, try watching it again. Gleaming. What? Try watching what again? What the Gleaming the Cube again? Or when's the last time you seen Gleaming the Cube?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, it was on TV not that long ago, and I was like, oh shit, Gleaming the Cube, and I started watching. Yeah, it's not good. It's really not.
You know it's there's one I used to watch in heavy rotation, and I got it on Blu-ray, and I may watch it like twice, and I felt kind of bad both times watching it because it kind of hurt because I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I watched this so many times. Legend of Billie Jean.
Oh, Helen Slater.
Yep.
Oh shit. Oh, I don't know if I've ever watched that. I know of it. I definitely know it. And you know
Fair
what?
is fair.
I may have watched it back in the day, but I don't remember it.
You would
I know
remember
of it. Okay.
you would remember the scene where Helen Slater gets out of the water and like just in, like this like it's basically like it's not even a half shirt. It's like a third of a shirt. It's like barely covering her tits, and these like her like really sheer like bikini bottoms or whatever. And I always thought like Helen Slater and Christian Slater were like brother sister, like because of the names. But
Yeah.
apparently it's just occurrence. It's like Adam Baldwin and Alec Baldwin are not related. This is well, the same last name of Baldwin.
Yeah.
Same thing with Diane Keaton and Michael Keaton. They're just happen to have like the but that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So it's like apparently Christian Slater was like crushing on Helen Slater the entire time. It's like his dream was to marry her. He's like it was kind of
They
Biff.
wouldn't have to change their name.
No, they wouldn't. It's like Christian Slater's like doing the whole Biff thing, like I'll marry you, Lorraine. Someday you'll be my wife. It's like he's creeping on her and stuff. It's like I can understand why. I mean, how could you not? I mean, but she's like a little too skinny for my taste. I need a little bit more meat on the bone. Uh, but
I'll
it
have to
was
look into that for sure.
yeah, it was actually it's really dumb. Like and I'll give you a heads up. You've seen, of course, you've seen Maximum Overdrive, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know how you got your Lee Smith in there.
Yeah, oh
Lisa
yeah,
Simpson.
yeah.
You know, Curtis. That thing.
Yeah.
She's in
Legend of Billie Jean.
Billie Jean, and she is just as fucking annoying. But she's
Uh-huh.
like, "Mama," and her mama smacks the shit out of her.
I have to
Yes,
see that.
thank you. It was like one of those things. Like,
It's funny you bring up Maximum Overdrive because I was thinking the other day. You remember the Uber self-driving car that ran over the lady?
yes.
I had joked. I said there was a green goblin on the front of the car that drove her over. Somebody was like, "Oh, did you hear about that?" I was like, "Yeah, it was a green goblin smushed on the front of the car that it ran her over."
Oh my god! It was like
No one got the reference. I'm like, you fucking assholes. Like it was
we made you.
we made you. And meanwhile, who made who was playing in the background? It was like I don't know. It was a funny joke that went nowhere because no one got the reference. So it's just that was a very dark moment in my day a few days ago when I heard that. Oh, did you hear about that? I said, yeah, there's a Green Goblin on the front of the car. They're like, what?
I heard it was scored by AC/DC, and then
Yeah,
Tom Lee
exactly.
just comes through. Like
Woo-hoo!
every time, like I go to Wilmington, I usually go. I would either take 421 down to Wilmington where my comic store is because it's on. It's right near the riverfront on the Cape Fear, uh, which is actually where you've seen Manhunter, right? The movie Manhunter.
Oh yeah, with William Peterson.
Yeah, William Peterson. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Tom Noonan and everything. Well, you know where the Tooth Fairy's house is,
Yes.
Dollar Hyde's house and everything. It's supposed to be on like the Mississippi River or whatever.
Hmm.
Well, actually, that's the Cape Fear River. That's down in North Carolina that they filmed that.
Oh.
Oh, that's
Okay.
that's pretty cool. And I was like, I found that out. Just like I watched Manhunter again earlier today. It was like I fucking love that movie. But
Yeah, it's a very good movie.
it's my opinion, Michael Mann's best because it's got that. It's intense, but it's not too full of itself like he is. He has that. I haven't seen Thief. I've never seen Thief, so I might have to take that back when I see Thief, which is the one with James Caan. But I'm not a huge James Caan fan. I'm more like William Peterson fucking nailed it. Like
he was great.
But watching that, but going down to my comic store, I go across the Cape Fear River on that bridge, the drawbridge for the beginning of Maximum Overdrive.
Oh,
and I do in the back of my head like, one of these days the thing's gonna go haywire, and it's Maximum Overdrive is gonna come to life, and if that happens, I'm fucked.
Yeah. Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah. Travis in the chat says True Romance, best Slater movie, and I have to agree. That is the True Romance with Broken Arrow right after it. Oh my god, it's so good. It's like that. True Romance is like even though there's that weird, because I know it's it's Tarantino's script directed by Tony Scott, and it's like Tarantino's like, oh, because he sold that off and everything. It's like the reason it's so good is because Tarantino didn't direct it.
That's a very good point. Like, yeah, I can only imagine the Tarantino version.
Oh my god, he'd probably be arrogant enough to do it all over again.
He probably would.
Like,
he probably would.
Well, because if you watch Reservoir Dogs, Mr. White mentions Alabama from True Romance, so it kind of ties all together, and you got the Vega brothers and everything.
Yes, yep.
But yeah, it's like True Romance is like one of those like the beginning of the movie. I guess it could turn you off considering Clarence is talking about the like how like he wanted to fuck Elvis Presley. And it's like, I'm not gay, but it's the king after all. I'm like, that's pretty gay, man. That's pretty gay. It's just, but what can you do, right?
Right.
But I think this has gone on. I think this has gone on long enough. It's been 3 hours, dude. You gotta wrap. I gotta wrap you up and get you on out of here.
All right, man. That's
all right.
Interesting way to tie it all up. True Romance.
Oh my god! And you can Travis, and you can imagine the remake of Maximum Overdrive with cell phones done by modern Hollywood. Yeah, it's like, well, actually, they did that. It was called Cell. It was the Stephen King novel called Cell, and they made a movie of it starring John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson, and it was dog shit.
It has to be. Oh my god!
It was basically it's Maximum Overdrive, but with cell phones and people going to kill each other. They're killing each other. The cell phones aren't necessarily killing them, but they're killing each other. But
and it was based on a Stephen King story.
Yeah, yep. Ugh. It's like one of those like beautiful golden Stephen King stories. Golden as in shit.
What the fuck happened to that guy? I mean, really, talk about a guy that just fucking lost it.
Coke.
You get hit by one van in a snowstorm, and it just all goes to shit after that.
Well, it's like, he did write it, and then it's like, hey, let's put a very detailed, tween gangbang sequence.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad I never read it. I'm glad I never.
Same here. I every time like that either like when the movie came out and people were talking about it, or even like whenever anyone brings up the Tim Curry version. That's kind of my go-to actually with it. I'd never read it. I had a buddy of mine in high school who'd be like, "Oh, you got to read this." I'm like, "Dude, it's like It's the size of a fucking phone book. Like I'm not. I don't have this kind of time. Like sorry, I'm trying to chase girls, dude. I don't have this time to sit around and you know read this. And eventually down the road, I ended up reading parts of it. I never finished it. Um, but yeah, and then I heard about that scene, that the teenage gangbang scene, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that's fucked up. And just I don't know. I remember Ben Shapiro threw that in his face, Stephen King's face, or something like that, talking about like he was shitting on Trump. As like, hey, weren't you the guy that wrote the fucking teenage gangbang scene with like a bunch of 12-year-olds? Like, how'd you pipe down there, asshole? But yeah, that's I actually it's funny. Funny you mentioned that, like Stephen King. This is another kind of odd story, not odd story, and I'll tie it up and we'll end it after this.
We can't
But
end it on teenage gangbang. We cannot.
no, we can't. Well, we could, but we might not do
No, don't do
that.
that. No,
No, yeah, maybe, sure, yeah.
please.
Yeah, sure. I want to hear more about that. I want to go to the library and get that book. So, anyways, hey, someone took it out. Oh no, I'm gonna have to wait another couple of weeks. So the people that live behind me on the other street, like this, I haven't seen them in decades, but the lady that she went to college with Stephen King.
Hmm.
And she had all sorts of stories that like she'd see him on campus, and then she had like two classes with him, and and I thought that was like, oh my god, Stephen King. She's like, I wouldn't say I know him, but I've like, she knew of him and she saw him, but that was like when he went to college and well long before he became famous, and I thought that was cool shit, and then I found out he's a fucking lunatic. You follow him on Twitter, and he just goes on. He just goes off the rail. And again, like, dude, I get it. You don't like Trump, all right? Plenty of people don't. I get it, but just like every little thing, it's just like, dude, just go have a fucking sandwich. Just relax. Take a deep breath. Go write another book about kids fucking each other. I don't know. Do something. Just take a deep breath, man. Like whatever you got to do. That movie sounds fucking awful. That Cell movie.
Yeah,
That sounds like, well, it's John Cusack, so I mean, to say anything was his fucking peak. We're talking about peak was
I
'80s actors. I mean,
I
I
say
would.
honestly, I say Better Off Dead. Better Off Dead
Oh
was his
yeah, you're
peak.
right.
Yeah,
You're
because
right. No, you're right.
that right there, because it was the balance of like he's trying to kill himself the entire movie, and then she's like, Monique's like, aren't you going to kill yourself anymore? And that's after he kind of falls in love with her. And he's like, not
Mm.
anymore. It's like, I got a reason to live. I got some hot foreign ass.
No, you're
And
right.
then,
I forgot about Better Off Dead.
because
That's a much better. Yeah.
Say Anything is good, but and it's like because I got the the boombox scene, but
That was Ione Sky, right?
I only got I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm torn. Better Off Dead or Gross Point Blank. Oh fuck. Oh man, One Crazy Summer. Like the top three John Cusack films are Gross Point Blank, One Crazy Summer, and Better Off Dead. That's like my top three. But because you had Minnie Driver and Gross Point Blank, and like she had that kind of chubby face, and I love that. It's like it's like and then she's like busting his balls because he left her, and it's like. I went to the military and I became an assassin. I worked for the government and I became an assassin. Like, what if you don't want to tell me? And then like Jeremy Piven's in that, and he's like doing lines of coke. And it's like twice a year.
That was Dan Aykroyd was in that too, right?
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna shoot you in the head and fuck the brain hole.
Yes.
And they're like in a diner, and they got both of them got like bags with guns in them, and then like they had their hands. No coffee for me, thanks. Like not even looking at the waitress, not taking the eyes off of them, and both of them kind of leave out of there. Like John Cusack uses the waitress as a human shield before he gets out the door. Such a good film. Such a good film.
He pulls an Indiana Jones.
Exactly. Hey, if it's good enough for
Kate Cat shot.
It's good enough for Martin Blank, but And with that,
All
we end
right.
this holding court. Thank you, Pete, for joining us, joining me, and thank those who popped in. I knew we had Travis popped in. I think somebody else popped by. He was listening. He didn't comment. He said his hands were full, so he haven't had us on. Uh, but I saw a message he sent me through Twitter. So,
Cool.
but yeah, thank you again, dude. We got to do this again soon. And good night, folks, and good luck.